session. Ms. Misikowski is here. There's 2 members present. We need 8 more for a quorum.
11 continued 1 week.
Okay. The council will please come to order. Call the roll.
Brinson, Chick, Fiord, Galanter, Goldberg, Hernandez, Holden, Miskowski, Pacheco, Padilla, Ridley Thomas, Thorne, Wax, Walters, Farrar, 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Yes, the council will please come to order. This is a meeting of the city council for the city of Los Angeles on the 28th day of September 1999. There are 15 council districts in the city. The regular meeting days are Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We are currently being viewed by cable subscribers throughout the Los Angeles area on Channel 35, and we're also being monitored by council phone. The first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
All right, Mr. Goldberg moves, Mr. Holden seconds. There are no objections, unanimous vote. The next item,
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
there are no objections, unanimous vote. Next item,
Item number 6 on the regular agenda, request to receive and file.
there are no objections, unanimous vote.
Item number 11, a request that matter be continued until October 5th.
11, continued until October 5th. If there's no objections, unanimous vote.
Item number 12, a request that matter be received and filed.
If there's no objections, unanimous vote.
Item 18, request that this matter be continued till October 6th.
If there's no objections, unanimous vote.
And item number 20D, closed session item to be continued till September 29th.
20D, if there's no objections, unanimous vote on that. Next item.
Items 1 through 5 on the regular agenda are items noticed for public hearing.
Is there anybody in the audience wants to be heard on 1 through 5? We have no cards. We have no, 1 through 5. Pay attention, members. 1 through 5. Okay, the public hearing's closed on 1 through 5. Any specials by council members? Any specials on? If not, prepare the roll on 1 through 5. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. The next item is 7. We'll call that special.
Item number 8 is a public hearing held.
Yeah, but let's call it special. Next item.
Items 9 through 19, with the exception of 11, 12, and 18.
These are public hearings not held. Let's see, we have cards on 10, 16, 17, and 18. 16, 17, 18 has been continued, and 22. Wait a while, we have to get, what'd you say?
What'd you say?
Conrad?
There's a request by the city attorney to hold number 9 until he arrives.
Okay. All right, anybody want to be heard on any of the other items? We have cards on 10, 16, 17, and 22. 20 is a closed session item, we'll call that special. Anybody want to be heard in
What was it closed session?
item 10? We haven't gotten to that yet.
What was closed session?
We have cards on it, so it's been called special. So no one wants to be heard on the balance, so prepare the roll on 9. 9 is special.
9 is special.
Okay, we have 13, 14, 15, 19, 21 is a closed session, 22, and 23. 22 is called special. Prepare the roll on the balance. Tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
Okay, those are approved. The next item,
Item number 7, called special.
all right, Mr., we have Edward Yu, and then Stan Franklin. Edward Yu, Stan Franklin, and Royal Brown. If you can line up, we could save some time. We have a lot of people want to be heard. Did you want to be heard?
Yes.
Oh, please, start speaking.
Hello, my name is Edward Yu. I'd like to read something on the health hazards of landfills. An official health warning from the New York State Department of Health and the Yale University School of Medicine. The New York State Department of Health, in conjunction with the Yale University School of Medicine, studied 590 inactive waste sites in 20 upstate New York counties. The department and the School of Medicine also studied the health records of 27,000 births exposed to landfills in one degree or another, who were born in the years 1983 through 84. The study measured the health record of each newborn child according to the distance they lived from a waste disposal site. The high exposure group consisted of mothers who lived within 1 mile of the site where there was documented evidence of contamination, such as the Laytonville landfill. These are their findings. A 12% increase in all birth defects for those who lived less than 1 mile from any dump site. A 48% higher rate of birth defects involving the central nervous system. A 63% higher risk of birth defects for those living within a mile of leaking dump sites. A 75% higher risk of birth defects involving the musculoskeletal system. A 163% higher risk of birth defects involving serious skin problems. And additionally, I'd like to point out that the freeway ramp area used by the dump trucks is much more littered than it was before the reopening. The only thing preventing this litter from blowing into the reservoir is the reservoir fence. Excuse me, is anyone listening to this? Okay.
Would you,
I mean, I took out my day to be here. I would appreciate if you could do your job, too.
Okay, well, you don't have all day to speak.
Okay,
All right.
quite all right. And additionally, I'd like to point out that the freeway ramp used by the dump trucks is much more littered than it was before the opening. The only thing preventing this litter from blowing into the reservoir is the reservoir fence.
I'll just put 'em right here.
And this is only the litter that we see. One has to assume that all the litter not trapped by the fence has already blown into the reservoir. See for yourself. Visit the Oxford exits off of the 5 freeway. And now you want to bring the dump even closer to the reservoir and closer to the people. Proximity is an issue. Proximity to the reservoir and proximity to the people. I remind myself that in your offices, in your duties, you are public servants. You make decisions based on the greater good of your citizens. Well, the county supervisors, also public servants, in their decision to serve the greater good, have reopened the dump. Reopening the dump has provided allegedly needed dump space. You've heard exhaustive testimony about successful recycling and the underusage of the space and the overestimates of the need. If the need of the county dump is dubious, the volume of the dump site is truly dubious. In the name of the greater good, what is accomplished by expanding
Mr.
the
Yu,
dump?
how long are you going to be?
I just have another paragraph,
Okay, thank you.
starting the paragraph. In the name of the greater good, what is accomplished by expanding the dump? Expanding it toward your own citizens. Nothing is accomplished. You raise money or you save money. That's all. Money. The LA area has a dump. The greater good of the LA area has been served. But what about the greater good of the locals? Expanding the dump needlessly does not serve us in any way. It threatens us. It does not serve us. It merely labels the council, forgive me, as money-grubbing, bad servants, and bad politicians. Be the type of politician, be the type of public servant your children would be proud of. Tell them you did the right thing. You did a noble act today. Don't sell us out. The greater good of LA has been served. Now serve the greater good of the locals. Don't expand the dump. Don't sell out our health. It serves no one.
That was a long paragraph.
It was a long paragraph.
Stan Franklin, now you spoke over, he spoke over 4.5 minutes, and we're not going to allow that to happen again, so be brief and do not repeat.
I have a very short statement. I'm not a member of any group. I'm a private person who came down here, who lives very close to the area. The winds are strong through Bee Canyon. That's where we live. And the winds can go up to 60 miles an hour, and they blow most of the fall, winter, and spring. This causes me to have severe asthma attacks, and I'm often homebound for many days because of this. This has to stop. People are now suing tobacco companies who cause illness, and they're winning. Then we have the right to sue BFW for the same thing. And the city, and we have the right to sue the city for letting them do it. Please respect our desire not to expand this dump. Thank you.
Royal Brown, and then Sylvia Libis.
Royal Brown, I'm an engineer retired. I attended the committee hearing of the land use, and it was not fully implemented. Lots of us were not allowed to speak. Councilman Bernstein asked that those who are interested in talking about alternatives come to the city council meeting, and that's why I'm here. Frankly, the design that's being proposed for you today to approve is going to lead to an environmental disaster. Every time a lined landfill that gets wet garbage continues into existence, you're just going to have another Love Canal in the United States. Very frankly, there are alternative designs that should be used if you're going to approve a landfill for this site. American technology has presented to us two separate concepts for dewatering garbage so it doesn't leak into the groundwater. Those are squeezing and fluffing. The squeezing process is barely known to the public as baling. This has been proved around the United States by the Environmental Protection Agency. They allow baled garbage to be shipped unlimitedly without further restrictions in the United States and around the world because it doesn't cause any odors, doesn't cause any water leaking out of the garbage. Therefore, I urge you today to change the provisions of this permit and only allow the garbage to be placed in the city of Los Angeles if it is properly processed so it will not be contributing any water or methane to the public and to the neighbors who live nearby. In other words, I'm asking you today to change the provisions of this permit so that this garbage is dewatered before it is allowed to be placed into the ground.
There, thank you.
I wish to thank the Councilman Bernstein for asking those of us. I'm afraid that I cannot talk. I hear from the chair about the second process. There being another process that has been very successful in the United States also. And I would urge that this council delay this action so proper means of education and learning of you can be done under the environmental laws of the state of California. Therefore, I object to the approval of the environmental documents today as inadequate because this council has not been properly prepared on the real alternatives to this proposal that has been presented to you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Sylvia Libis. And then Becky Banninson.
Honorable City Council, I was here.
What is your name?
I am for Victor Volt Goldstein.
Well, you got-
Trust,
you-
Viorel Murashan, and for, I am,
I call the names and then they come up. Please, you sit.
it's Victor Goldstein, number 2, I was here, I came
Well,
at,
we're number 2. Sit, please. We're not on number 7 now, so.
yes, but I was not
Let-
number 2, I was present, but the police there, I was giving him.
Sylvia Libis.
I want
and
to
then Becky.
recall, I want to recall.
Sergeant, would you ask him to please sit down? Backinson, Sylvia Libis, and then Becky Backinson, and then Frank Lee.
My name is Becky Bendixson. I live in Granada Hills. I would like to relinquish my 3 minutes to John Hendricks. Thank you.
Frank Lee. And then Phyllis Hines.
My name is Frank Lee. I've been a resident in Granada Hills since 1967. When I first came, the air was clean. After the landfill, the air is dirty. And the community of Granada Hills was there long before the landfill came, and the residents had no say in the matter at all. And I feel that because of the hazard implications to the residents, not only of Granada Hills, but potentially of the whole of LA, I think that the community residents should have a stronger say in this matter. Fact one is that the landfill is hazardous to residents in the immediate area. My wife died of cancer after the landfill came. Who knows, it could be a coincidence, but it could be otherwise. Fact two is that, as everybody knows, the landfill is upstream of the Jensen water filtration plant and the Van Norman Reservoir. And we know from recent news that nature can be very destructive. The earthquake in Turkey and in Taiwan is large enough, I feel, that it is potentially a situation that if such a magnitude of earthquake occurred here or larger, then the filtration plant and the reservoir could be contaminated, which means that the whole of LA is potentially in a hazardous situation. So, members of the council, if you wish to do the right thing, do not approve the extension of the landfill.
All right,
As a
thank you,
matter
Mr.
of
Lee.
fact, if you wish to do the real right thing, you will pass a law forbidding landfills within 10 miles of an area such as Granada Hills. Thank you.
Phyllis Hines, and then Melissa Cromwell.
My name is Sylvia Libis. I have lived in Granada Hills for 29 years. Right now, you are planning to extend the landfill dump and rezone for heavy manufacturing. I am outraged by this because none of it is necessary. Have any of you members taken the time and effort to go out and see Granada Hills and the landfill dump and the Joseph Jensen filtration nearby? Now you tell me, and I've gone through enough meetings to know this, that I only have 4.5 minutes to speak. Well, I'm not going to have a heart attack over this, but I'm tired of being frustrated by your telling me this. My husband is one of the victims of cancer. There has never been an unbiased survey for health. And on the same block, Mr. Frank Lee spoke, and his wife died. Out of a block of 20 homes, over 7 people have died already. How much more do we have to put up with? if you have any moral concepts, you will vote against it.
Good morning. My name is Phyllis Hines, and I'm a resident of Lakeview Terrace, where the infamous Lopez landfill formerly operated. And I can speak with experience when I tell you that dump was a hazard to our health, and I can see that Sunshine is even a more hazard to the people of Granada Hills' health. Our ambient air was so high in xylenes and tylene, and you can go on forever, that the things that we were exposed to because of that landfill. I think it is completely unfair to the people that surround this landfill to have this extension approved. There has to be a better way. We can't keep just dumping garbage and exposing people to these hazards. I plead with you, use your common sense, use your conscience. Give these people a break and don't approve it as it is. There must be a better way of doing with our garbage. Please, I appeal to you to use your conscience. Thank you.
Lottie Crowell, and then Wayne Hunter.
I am Lisa Crowell, and I live in Lakeview Terrace, and I am in support of disapproving the proposed plan amendment from open space to heavy industrial. The plan is a betrayal of a previous commitment to limit expansion of the Sunshine landfill. The provision of overriding consideration makes a mockery of the basic tenet inherent in environmental impact reports. I would like to add that I think the city has abetted in the increasing volume of waste and lulls the citizens in thinking they're doing the right thing because there is recycling of green waste and paper, etc. However, the city, whoever the powers are that make policy, have never addressed source reduction, and therefore our black cans are as full as ever before. And please reconsider whatever is the right decision to make with regard to Sunshine.
Thank you. Wayne Hunter, and then Mary Edwards. Mary Edwards, and then Esther Simmons.
Thank you. My name is Wade Hunter. I'm the president of the North Valley Coalition. First, I'd like to ask you that if there is no decision reached here today, that if there are any further hearings, Plum, Council, etc., that they be held in the San Fernando Valley. It is extremely hard for these people here behind me to be in attendance today, and considering it's these people whose life and that of their children that are going to be affected for the next 50 to 75 years, it only seems to be a fair request. First of all, I'd like to tell you, we are not NIMBYs. We have had a landfill for over 30 years. Even if this landfill expansion is not approved, we will still be closer to the county landfill than anybody else in the city of Los Angeles. If I was to ask any council person here today to put a landfill in their district, the answer would all be the same: no. Why? Because they are a health risk, and because the loss of property values. This proposed city expansion is no different except for one additional thing: the potential to contaminate all of LA's water supply. Now, I'm sure you have wondered, even laughed at the insanity of the Belmont Learning Center fiasco. How could these people be so stupid? To site a new landfill in closer proximity to all of LA's water in one of the most seismically active areas in all of Southern California is a disaster waiting to happen. What do you plan to say to the people of Los Angeles when their water is contaminated and undrinkable after a major earthquake? We're all good people, good citizens, all of us. This is a bad landfill whose impacts cannot be mitigated. We have told you of the dust and the trash that blew down upon us when BFI operated in the city. We have told you of cancer clusters, of asthma and other respiratory diseases and distress. We've told you of our fears that we have, especially for our children who have to breathe this air both in school and at home. We have told you of past violations and the failure to comply with the conditions imposed upon BFI by the zoning administration, the Board of Zoning Appeals, and yes, even City Council. We were promised valuable recreation land or open space when the landfill closed in 1991. And yet here we are again, faced with a landfill of world-class proportions. We implore you, do not do this to us. Thank you.
Mary Edwards, and then Esther Simmons, and then Barbara Iverson.
It's almost impossible for me to stand here and bring to you all that I know about this landfill within the prescribed 3 minutes. I say, should I talk about the water, how close it is to the largest treatment facility in the entire United States, the MWD, and next to it the DWP with its uncovered reservoir where there cannot be covered, one of the few in the United States that cannot by size be covered, and it has treated drinking water in it. I mean, I'm sure that BFI will have said that it's safe, but common sense shows you that it just purely isn't. Shall I talk to you about the air contaminants, which they say it cannot be mitigated in the EIR? Shall I talk to you about the dust storms that blew down on us at one time, the PM10s, and to bring all those diesels into the close proximity of the children, plus the incinerators, which incinerate the gas at a high temperature, but of themselves bring the products of incineration. And there's at least 5 of those proposed. Should I talk to you about the violations, the many violations, when this city council found with us, yes, it's there, it's causing material detriment to the people of this community. We know that. Should I talk to you about the forest that went down outside of the permitted lines when they went over their boundaries, and you gave the first curative variance ever? These were terrible violations. They were grievous violations. Should I talk to you about my neighbors? Mr. DeHaven on one side that died, Mr. Schaffel on the other side that died, the 2 hecklers that died on the other, and Sheila Small, whose house abuts them, have all died of cancer, and my 2 children have cancer. This is not right. There is something very inherently wrong in our neighborhood. Maybe it's not that, I don't know, but we should have a health study. One was ordered. You should have insisted that it be completed, not have allowed them to skate on that as they have skated on so many things. This is not a company with a good reputation, either here or nationally. I beg you to use reason to think about these things. This wind tunnel situation, I could go on forever, and I would be glad to meet with any of you and do just that, but I suppose you would. But if you want to know more, there is more. Please, please do not approve this project.
Thank you. Esther Simmons and Barbara Iverson and John Hendricks.
Good morning. My name is Esther Simmons. I live in Granada Hills, and I'm a member of the North Valley Coalition. BFI reported to the Solid Waste Management Committee, Integrated Waste Management Task Force, that the county portion of Sunshine Canyon Landfill will run out of capacity in 7.6 years. This would be true if they were collecting 6,600 tons per day, 6 days per week. According to most recent figures, they average about 3,500 tons per day. At current usage, 13.6 years of capacity remains. BFI does not need to expand into the city portion. The county has set aside sufficient space for the dumping of 70 million tons of trash to be allotted in increments. BFI's current parcel allows for the dumping of 16 million tons. They can return to the county for approval of the remaining parcel at any time. Why then do they want and need the city portion? The supposed lack of capacity is one of the overriding considerations everyone uses as an excuse to justify the landfill expansion. The Department of Sanitation document City of Los Angeles refuse disposal options dated January 1999, is deceptive and misleading. It says that under Condition 10D of the county's CUP, if the City of Los Angeles does not approve this landfill, it will not be allowed to dump at Sunshine Canyon. Condition 10D has been deleted from the CUP. It no longer applies. The 1995 settlement agreement by and between BFI and the City of Los Angeles allows dumping in the county portion for the life of the landfill. You will not be shut out of Sunshine Canyon. BFI's public reason for wanting to expand into the city, rather than use county land already set aside for them, is that it will destroy the remaining trees. If they were so concerned, why did they rip out over 4,000 of them to build the current landfill in the first place? The devastated piece of land in the city was already there as it is today. Why didn't they go after that instead? It didn't bother them that they destroyed an entire ecosystem which included a riparian woodlands, wetlands, and wild animal corridor. They have destroyed the heart of the canyon, yet they expect you to believe they want to preserve what remains. With 29 years of tipping fees out there, who are they kidding? How will this expansion benefit the city? There will be more diesel pollution from trucks, more dirt and dust. There will be more leachate and the possibility of contaminating the city's drinking water. There will be more sickness in the resident children and elderly, maybe an increase in the cancer rate. All in all, a bad deal for the City of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Barbara Iverson, and then John Hendricks, and then Marcia McLean.
Why is the proposal to expand Sunshine Canyon landfill on the City Council's agenda today? The obvious answer is that BFI, benefiting from its lobbyists' access to you and your deputies, can present its plan as a necessary and timely action. Your incentive to quickly approve this measure is the revenue the city receives from tipping fees. But we contend that Sunshine Canyon, as it now exists without expanding back into the city, has the capacity to hold 70 million tons of garbage and will not need to add area for at least 35 years. The LA Bureau of Sanitation and other landfill customers don't need more landfill space, especially since the recycling program has been so successful and diverts 55% of the waste stream. So contracts from all over Southern California and beyond will be solicited. Does Los Angeles really want the biggest landfill in the U.S. in its backyard? There is a false urgency to this proposal. You, as our elected representatives, have the time and the duty to investigate alternative technologies and rail haul options. Please don't be steamrollered into premature acceptance of this plan so destructive to the ecology of the region. Landfills are dinosaurs in urban areas. Don't make Sunshine Canyon landfill an example of short-sighted city planning and the last of a dying species. Thank you.
John Hendricks, and then Marcia McLean, then Barbara Fine.
Good morning, Council. I'm John Hendricks. I represent the Homeowners Association in Granada Hills. We're about 125 members strong. I want to point out that the dump is owned and operated right now by BFI, and that corporation with an established record of contempt for the law, communities, and the environment. The violations range from felony antitrust convictions and pleas to misdemeanor civil penalties, including a lengthy account of environmental disregard. Here are just a brief couple of examples. 1999, BFI paid Doherty Township $800,000 to settle a lawsuit filed in federal court. The township had accused BFI of avoiding tax payments by illegally altering the manner in which it calculated gross receipts for a landfill. 1998, BFI pleads guilty to illegal wastewater discharges in Washington, D.C. will pay $1.5 million penalty. 1998, BFI reached a $682,000 settlement with Solid Waste Authority in Contra Costa County, California. 1998, BFI reached an agreement with the U.S. Department of Labor, was cited for gender discrimination against 11 women who applied for positions as truck drivers. 1997, more than a $5 million fine and restitutions in Westchester, Pennsylvania for illegal disposal of wastewater treatment sludge. 1995, a Texas state employee with the National Resource Conservation Commission pleads guilty to accepting a bribe from BFI in exchange for favorable permit ruling. This goes on and on. What we need to point out here today is that BFI is a company that cannot be trusted. BFI is on record with repeatedly lying to organizations, to counties, to people that want to set up their waste disposal with them. They've been repeatedly found guilty of violating antitrust laws. I have submitted for the record a big list of violations. I would suggest that all the council members look into them. The Los Angeles City Council members, Mr. Mayor, and the city attorney, you civic leaders now have the knowledge in order to disengage brokering millions of dollars of taxpayers' money in arrangement with a recidivist. To prevent the appearance of collusion, the City Council must address the following issues and demand that BFI publicly release a recent 10-year history of their legal disputes in the United States and worldwide. Only then will we all be able to make an informed decision costing us millions of dollars that will impact our air, water, health, and environment for future generations. Here are some reasons why this should not be granted. If granted, Sunshine Canyon will be the nation's largest dump. This is not an exaggeration. In my submissions to the city records are the yearly totals of the dumps within the United States, including the great big one in Pino Hills. This dump, if it's allowed, will be bigger than New York City's dump. It'll be bigger than the one in Los Angeles. It totally dwarfs anything in Chicago, San Francisco, Detroit, on and on. If allowed, this expanded site would be about 494 acres. It would be adjacent to schools and homes. As stated in the City Planning Commission's text, air quality in the vicinity cannot be adequately mitigated. Two of the state's largest open water filtration plants are next to this proposed site. This is not an exaggeration. These sites are less than 3/4 of a mile from this site. I live in Granada Hills, and on any given day, the winds up there have easily reached 40 miles an hour sustained. There's no way that any kind of a spray salve or topical treatment will prevent the particles becoming airborne and into that water supply. BFI influences legislation in LA County by nearly $1.5 million paid to lobbyists. My text in the city records indicate that according to the City Ethics Commission, BFI in 1998 contributed some $300,000, and then later, the first quarter of 1999, another $103,000. And I have no idea what they've done so far. They don't have in. My point is this, is that according to the City Ethics Commission, as you all know, that there are caps that can be donated in any given year to any given politician, and just a rough kind of estimate comes up, but that's just a mere few $1,000s because all third-party donations have to be declared as to whose interest it was. That would leave roughly about $400,000 that BFI would be paying the lobbyist as salaries. I would suggest that, for example, you, Mr. Hernandez, look into finding out where that money is spent. The City Ethics Commission will be glad to comply with your investigation. Ask BFI themselves, are you really paying the lobbyist himself $400,000? I've checked. I don't see any BFI advertisements on the television. I don't see any big pro-BFI advertisements in newspapers or in magazines. Let me see. I have some notes here all about the trucks, as these are the facts as stated in the City Planning Commission. It's 640 trucks, not 1,200 or 1,100, but 640 trucks driving a combined total of 34,000 miles a day. I mean, God, it goes on and on and on. They'll be accessing that dump through Balboa Boulevard, San Fernando Road, the Highway 5 and 14. The dump is on the intersection. It is right at the interchange of 5 major freeways. If this goes on for 30 years with the cars and trucks that already cram those freeways, I'm sure that we're going to have unprecedented record air pollution for at least 30 years. It's a no-brainer not to put that dump there. I want to conclude here that bearing in mind that, the massive scale, the 30 years, and then after that, there's supposed to be, some 20, 26 years for reclamation? Nobody knows here. BFI doesn't know. Nobody can predict. Again, in my records that I've submitted to the city, I have at least 12 articles in there written by the Environmental Protection Agency, let me see, PhDs, third-party universities, case studies, that kind of thing. Nobody can tell what will happen to that area in 40 or 50 or 60 years. Also, in that documentation that I submit to the city, there is substantial evidence that all landfills will leak eventually, and that all leachate systems will fail, period. They go into the reasons why they will fail, is that it's inadequate testing of the millions and millions and millions of tons of garbage that are sitting on top of the leachate pipes, and it's very easy for them to get clogged by silt, to get crushed. Nobody knows what kind of contaminants will exist in the future. Nobody knows what kind of chemicals will combine and therefore destroy the integrity of the leachate pipes. I want to sum up bearing in mind that BFI has an extensive on-record background history of criminal violations, all the way from felony charges down to civil misdemeanors and that type of thing. And back east, it's on record, is the Cumberland versus BFI. It's in your text that I gave you, is that it was established by upper-level BFI management that they had ties to organized crime. BFI can make you the promises all that they want. They can guarantee you lead and end up with gold. Guarantee you gold and end up with lead. There's nothing that they can say that they can prove and substantiate for the years to come. The city should not broker with as I said, with a renounced recidivist. In closing, to date, Los Angeles has the world's most expensive toxic high school, the world's most expensive, shortest, failure-prone subway, and one of the world's worst school systems in the United States. All because of bad decisions dictated by big business, luring ambitious politicians. Which of you will demonstrate the wisdom, the insight, and the courage to do what is best and right for your constituents that place their trust in you when you were elected? Mr. Mayor, where is the accountability, your leadership that you extolled as you spoke of a new era for the Angelenos while promoting the new city charter? Which of you are honestly willing to sign your name in approval in what will inevitably be a colossal, litigious, foreboding threat to the tens of thousands of citizens that will be living adjacent to Sunshine Canyon?
Mr. Hendricks, I think
I'm just about done, and people gave me their time, sir.
Okay.
Heed the warning that Belmont High has taught us. Stand up for your constituents, and please permit your conscience and not your ambitions to dictate your vote. There are more appropriate sites with more responsible ownership to consider. Children, families, and future generations, and our most precious natural resource, our environment, is where we are asking you to place your loyalty and your faith. Proudly lead us into the next millennium. Thank you.
Marcia McLean, and then Barbara Fine.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I know trying to make a decision on that is going to be bad for a neighborhood is hard on any public official, but we appreciate your listening and having good attention to what these people are having to say. My name is Marcia McLean. I'm the president of the Santa Clarita Valley Canyons Preservation Committee. I'm also an alternate member of the Los Angeles County Waste Management Task Force, and I'm a member of the UCLA Countywide Waste Management Policy Committee. I have been involved in waste management issues for the past 11 years. And I have firsthand knowledge of the efforts of Los Angeles City to meet the 50% goal and, in fact, exceed that to 70% goal for recycling. And that effort should be applauded. As you know, the availability of landfill open space for mega urban landfills is rapidly diminishing. And it seems inevitable that the Sunshine Landfill expansion will be approved, unfortunately. That's only a Band-Aid approach. There is enough available landfill space for the short term in Los Angeles County for the next 20 to 25 years. But what about after that? A Rose Institute report of January 20th, 1999 states that it would be wise to plan now for the advent of waste by rail. Los Angeles City is doing a disservice to its residents by not insisting that a transfer station be planned for now rather than later. At 2 recent Los Angeles County Waste Management Task Force meetings, representatives of the Mesquite Landfill and the Eagle Mountain Landfill made presentations. They want LA's trash. El Sobrante in Riverside County is currently operating. East Carbon in Utah can accommodate 20,000 to 30,000 tons per day. In fact, there is so much landfill space available other than Sunshine and any new in-county landfills that there will not be enough garbage to make them all economically viable. The problem now is that there are not enough material recovery facilities and railheads to accommodate waste by rail at this time. There are no plans for a MRF at Sunshine Landfill. That is a serious mistake. Now, our committee does not advocate landfilling anywhere. We do advocate research into new technology so that our generation does not lead the next into having to put up with the impact of landfills. A portion of tipping fees from the Sunshine Landfill, should it be approved, and others should be put aside for better and more environmentally sound methods of dealing with waste. And we hope that you will recommend that fee as mitigation for the impacts of the Sunshine Landfill and that a fund be set up for just a purpose. I can almost guarantee that if there were a mandate that there would be no more landfilling, in 5 years there would be a boon in new and safer technology at a reasonable cost. Alternative technology should not replace recycling and reuse of materials. You cannot use overriding considerations in this case because there is enough landfill space now existing and there will be so much in the near future. Are you aware that 20% of Superfund sites are municipal landfills? The EPA states that all liners eventually leak. And it is my understanding that new garbage will be placed over the old site. How far will the new liner stretch as the old trash liquefies and settles? This should be looked into. And in conclusion, I would just say that I sincerely hope Los Angeles City will be looking to the future and not depending on urban landfilling for the long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fine. Chair would like to recognize Thomas Phillips. Was that?
Thank you.
Yes.
Barbara
Go
Fine.
right ahead.
Many of you know me as head for many years of the Solid Waste Citizens Advisory Group of the city. And over 10 years ago, BFI, at that point not yet bought out by Allied Waste of Arizona, still an independent company, applied to the county for a landfill. In it, it clearly indicated that this was coming. This day was coming. The county's application was going to come and be approved. Then BFI was going to go back into the city, and then a third one would be a cover over both areas. That's now coming to fruition within the city portion. There is yet one more portion because this will take it only, with your approval, this week or next week, to over 12,000 tons, and it can go to 17,500 tons a day. So that means 5,000 more tons per day, according to BFI's original plans. A joint powers authority will probably be in place when that application comes through, and that's important to realize. We're not done with the size of this mega dump. We're only 2/3 of the way there. Please bear that in mind as you approve this and as you approve all the other conditions of approval this week or next. Who benefits from this? It's obvious BFI does. The next application is not to the city, but the county, because the county has expanded and is providing for 64,000 additional residences in the North County area. There are only 2 operational landfills, Chiquita and Sunshine Canyon. All of this is being planned not so much for the 3,000 tons or 2,000 tons per day of the city, but for that additional expansion in the North County area, the fastest growing area in all of Los Angeles County. And that's the real reason we are here today, not simply for the city to gain a couple of thousand tons per day for the next several years. The last people, of course, to benefit would be the communities. For them, it is truly a locally undesirable land use, a LULU. You've heard the testimony. You know the facts. Landfills are not good neighbors. So that is the order. The applicant, the county, the city, the saving of $10 million for a transfer station that is not going to be needed for the near future for the valley is really not that important because the city will be spending it with the horrible mess that has been created with the downtown transfer station situation. It will be spent, I can assure you. What does all of this mean? The environmental document does not include any of that additional county growth. 64,000 residences not discussed because the planning department, as the lead CEQA agency, did not choose to discuss it. It has the discretion. CEQA says so. It did not choose to do this. And that's extremely important because this landfill will be expanding. And if the city simply hands over its authority to a joint powers authority, issues will never get discussed. And one of them, although we don't like to think about it, is the fact that there's going to need to be a second access to this landfill. We have only 12,000 tons a day that will be approved now. It can go up to 17,500, and there may be application even for a higher landfill in the future. At some point, the city must address the issue of a second access. This all cannot go through one access. Yes, the settlement did state that an access must be provided through the city, but there needs to be this additional access. And that is what you are being asked to do in the next week or so, is to take a look at conditions that are to be directed to the Joint Powers Authority when it is organized to require at some point in time that a second access within the county be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas Phillips and Bill Piazza.
Good morning, Mr. President and members of the City Council. My name is Tom Phillips. I also live in Granada Hills, and I'm here to register my protest against this planned action in Sunshine Canyon. There are two major health issues that the residents around Granada Hills are concerned about. One is the very, very close proximity between the Sunshine Canyon and the water purification and water storage facilities that we all drink. That has already been addressed. The other issue I'm going to speak about is the wind that blows off that landfill. If you've ever seen it, there is a saddle on top of the landfill through which the wind blows, the prevailing wind all the time, all year long. That saddle is a venturi. It compresses the airflow. The airflow accelerates to a higher velocity. As it gets out of there, it expands, goes down over thousands of homes, schools, and to the top of the hill where we live. It goes right over Nobel Junior High, and when you add the noxious and toxic fumes to the water issues and the potential for earthquake, we have a severe toxic hazard that we as homeowners do not want to have. I ask you, members of the City Council, would you want your children and yourselves to be breathing that air day in and day out all the time? Now, what you have before you today among us is voters. We didn't come down here with signs and placards and chants to disrupt the City Council meeting, but we do vote every election, and we will vote in the future. We also have good memories. Thank you. And we're willing, also have the financial resources to contribute to other councilmanic elections. Thank you.
Okay, Bill Piazza and then Irene Tomlinson.
Good morning. My name is Bill Piazza. I work for the Los Angeles Unified School District. I am an environmental assessment coordinator, and contrary to popular belief, we have the utmost concern for the students and staff that attend our schools. For a number of months now, the district has bantered with the project proponent regarding certain issues of technical adequacy, and I wish to transcend that issue. I don't think it's necessary at this point, and I think our arguments are in the administrative record for your purview. I think what's important, and we have to understand that what we're looking at here is what is the potential impact on the students and staff that attend our local school, Van Gogh Street Elementary. What's clear, regardless of what the experts say, is that the FSCIR clearly identifies, quote, mitigation measures would reduce impacts. However, even with the implementation of these mitigation measures, project-generated and project-related cumulative impacts are considered significant and unavoidable. A step further, in the statement of overriding considerations, quote, operations would result in an exceedance of the PM10 particulate matter criteria and would remain significant after the incorporation of mitigation measures. Clearly, the environmental document and the statement of overriding considerations says there's going to be an impact, it's significant and unavoidable. And I say, where are the impacts going? If they're not going to the local community, certainly our local schools, where are they going? Well, it sounds pretty good, and I believe that, in fact, they are affecting our local school. It is affecting the local community. Understand that the state of California, and we're talking just about particulates and dust here, the state of California, in response to the US EPA when they wanted to modify their existing particulate standards, said that the current state standard has no margin of safety. So the current particulate standard here in California offers really no margin of safety. Any incremental increase could in fact be significant. Well, what's significant? PM10 can do a number of things. It can increase mortality. It can exacerbate pre-existing respiratory and cardiovascular diseases. It can change lung function and structure. It can alter defense mechanisms, and it can increase the risk of developing cancer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Piazza.
One more note?
One more note?
If
and then
I may.
will tell us about the Belmont School, too?
If you would like, although I had nothing to do with that. Additional mitigation measures we would like to see is what we are asking for here. We would like to see in the mitigation options, a required fleet turnover. We would also like to see the installation or some type of mitigation option to minimize infiltration of particulates into the school. We have some recommendations, and we'd be happy to entertain those at your request.
Irene Tomlinson.
Thank you.
And then Ralph Cobb.
Good morning. My name is Irene Tomlinson. I'd like to relinquish my time to John Hendricks.
Well, he already spoke about 10 minutes, so...
But he's got more
This
information.
is less than a minute. It is.
Go ahead.
I just want to bring it to the councilman's attention that there are other alternative sites. And one of them is Mesquite landfills, Imperial County. By the way, I want to point out is that the City Planning Commission in their analysis of all the other sites is that none of the other sites, all were dismissed, and none of them were owned by BFI. It sounds kind of fishy to me. Mesquite landfill, one is final permits in 1998. Even on page 181 of the general plan findings submitted by the City Planning Commission, they point out that Mesquite Regional Landfill is approved for Class 3 non-hazardous landfill capable of receiving 20,000 tons per day for over 100 years. In 1998, a report by the Southern California Association of Government called for rail to haul to remote landfills. I only have a paragraph. That report spawned Mesquite landfill and two other desert landfills. Rail is overwhelmingly the most used method of transporting large commodities throughout the United States. Oil, gasoline, natural gas, industrial solvents, on and on.
Okay.
Rail is used by New York City to transport its
Mr.
industrial
Hendricks, don't
sludge.
abuse your... Now, you've been on here for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Please. We have other people who want to be heard.
Would you please let me finish? I have four
You
sentences
said
left.
1 minute, and you've talked to 3 minutes already. Please.
That's not
Ralph
true,
Coy.
Well, I just
Mayor
want to
Meg
make,
Volk.
please examine the Mesquite landfill situation. The excuses at the City Planning Commission are in its text are absurd, on face. Thank you.
Ralph Coy, then Meg Volk.
Good morning. My name is Ralph Croy. I have lived in Granada Hills location for 31 years across from the Van Gogh Elementary School. The area is a high wind area, especially during Santa Ana wind periods, blowing from the north, the dump. The high winds of over 60 miles per hour blow over the dump, over our homes, our schools, and the water supply of over 17 million customers. This is not just a local Granada Hills problem. 17 million people are involved. The winds carry debris from the dump over and to the final filtered water of the Metropolitan Water District storage area. The birds, mostly seagulls, also deposit debris onto the filtered drinking water. The Van Norman Lake's water does not get refiltered prior to being pumped to the consumer. Chlorine is added. We, the consumer, get the add-on debris. Question, will the city council provide, or the county provide, adequate final filters for our home? I doubt it. Again, this is a metropolitan area water problem. The dump is substantially higher elevation than the Metropolitan District water supply storage. Since all dumps eventually leak, per William Ruckelhaus, BFI Management, the leachant will end up in the water table and the reservoir. The dump is to bring over 12,000 tons of garbage daily. This will include 0.07% toxic waste per BFI's very conservative EIR, amounting to 8 tons of toxic waste per day. Let it be noted that this is not presently thoroughly checked by BFI or any government agency. It could be more. This debris will blow in the winds and leach into the water. The water that runs in an open gully in front of the BFI facility also comes from BFI and then flows to the Metropolitan Water District facility. This water then leaches additional pollutants into groundwater. We already have enough problems and a potential crisis with our groundwater without adding more chemicals, carcinogens, and bacteria. We note also that the dump workers wear dust masks. Let me tell you something. The dump is also a fire hazard, especially during high wind periods. Fires have already occurred in that area, and the potential for other fires is great with this operation.
How much longer are you going to be, Mr.?
Just a moment.
Yeah, that's what you always say.
Pardon? No, I couldn't have always said, because this is the first time I've been here. The dump city portion was to have been permanently closed and remain closed by prior city action. There are other safer operations or options to operating the dump in a large metropolitan area by a major water treatment facility that should be reviewed and will be presented, such as rail transfer to remote areas. Having the county's largest dump next to the county's or country's largest water treatment plant is not wise. Let us not have another Belmont fiasco or Love Canal fiasco where we railroad unsafe operations for someone's convenience or profit. Thank you.
Meg vote. And then,
Hi, ladies and gentlemen of the council, I appreciate your attention. I know a lot of this is repetitive, and I'm not going to go over any of that again. I live in the area very close to the Sunshine Canyon landfill. I have actually toured the landfill. We bought our home in '91. We never would have bought had we known that it was going to reopen. However, I did get involved with the Sunshine Canyon landfill, and the people there, Sandy and Dan, we did a local park cleanup, and they were very helpful in that. We also did a videotape on recycling. My son and I got involved in that, so I'm very familiar with their operations. I didn't have a problem with the existing operation as it was. I do have a problem with its expansion. Shakespeare said it best, something stinks in Denmark. There is a moral decay that is pervading all of Los Angeles. We have read about it with the LA Unified School District and the Belmont scandal. We've read about it with the LAPD and the Perez scandal. Officials in Los Angeles are making decisions based on what they think is right in their heads and not on what they know is wrong in their hearts. When BFI was last given a 25-year extension to operate Sunshine Canyon Landfill, a promise was made to the people of Granada Hills that the dump would be closed and valuable recreational land would be returned to the citizens of Los Angeles. The dump finally was closed in '91, but no land was returned to the people. Then in 1996, the dump was reopened and began operating on county land. Now you want to reopen the dump on city property within shouting distance of our homes and parks and schools, and you have changed the zoning restrictions for our beautiful hills from open space to heavy industrial. Perhaps it is within your legal rights to use and develop city land any way you want to, but this thing you're planning to do is not morally right, and in your hearts you know it. It's about time the public leaders of Los Angeles start looking to take the high road and not the easy way around. Thank you very much.
Ira Shaw, and then Joyce Edelman.
My name is Iris Shaw. I'm a retired professor. I live in Granada Hills, have lived there for 25 years. I would first like to start by thanking Hal Burnson for the support he has given us over the years, and that I hope that you will vote with him. I represent 500 homeowners in Knollwood property, in the Knollwood Country Estates. We are one. There is not anybody who lives in Knollwood who would support this bill and this action. And I think that you need to really go to your conscience and think about how you would feel if you were living in this area and your children were being brought up there. Give that more thought than anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Joyce Edelman, and then Nicole Batt, and then Sophie Chu.
I relinquish my time to John Hendricks.
Not him again. We've heard him. Joyce, Nicole Batt, and then Sophie Chu.
Hi, my name is Nicole Bott. I'm from Woodland Hills, and I'm here today to speak regarding my objection to the proposed expansion of the Sunshine Canyon landfill. More to the point, I object to the inadequate and substantially decreased quality control and monitoring measures, which when coupled with reduced mitigation efforts only serves to quite literally add insult to injury. Maximum elevation for the landfill on the county side of land is now at 1,875 feet. The proposed expansion lists its allowable elevation at 2,000 feet. The working phase of the operating area allows for 2 to 5 acres. Proposed expansion increases the service area to 10 acres. The slope of the landfill will also be steeper, which will obviously make it more unstable. Existing now is a provision for a full-time LEA inspector paid for by BFI and working under county control. However, in the expansion proposal, although there will be an inspector, he will be hired and controlled by BFI. The county side allows for 9 inches of soil for daily cover and 15 feet for final cover for revegetation, while the expansion proposes 6 inches of daily cover composed of undetermined material and a final cover of only 6 feet, which is the state minimum requirement. The final use of the county side of the landfill was to be donated to the county for open space, while in the proposed expansion, the final use of the land remains undetermined. There are several other items missing from the paperwork detailing the proposed expansion. These items include the existence of lysimeters, sensors to monitor incoming loads for toxins, and any defined plan for revegetation. BFI does not even support the mitigation programs which were instated in the current active landfill. For example, they are required to contribute $11,000 towards the yearly budget of the Citizens Committee and 50% funding of hazardous waste roundup. There have been no such mitigations proposed for the expansion. Formerly, they were required to donate 800 acres of parkland, and although the expansion will dramatically increase the usage of landfill, no additional land donation has been offered for further compensation. Our rare and precious wetlands were formerly promised to undergo a restoration, and now BFI will be able to get around that too by having the option of buying credits. BFI has not even met industry standards in determining the number of incinerators required, as BFI has used their own calculations for estimations. They have failed to make any stipulation that the incinerators will be kept 50 feet below the ridgeline, as was required on the county side. The probes to detect gas migration are currently reading starting at 500 feet. However, the proposed expansion will begin this monitoring at 1,000 feet, the state required minimum. What is perhaps most unsettling is the fact that there has never been any clear and concise answer regarding whether these lowered standards and substantially decreased mitigation procedures are meant to supplant the old ones. If we are to be forced into enduring this expansion, when the conflicting standards and mitigations arise between the current operating landfill and those of the proposed expansion, it is imperative that a provision that the more stringent of the two should apply. BFI should not be able to put our city at risk and enjoy the benefit of more lax regulations and procedures. If anything, they should be offering a more comprehensive mitigation program, but what we find instead is exactly what we have come to expect from BFI, a pile of garbage. Thank you very much.
Sophie Chu, and then Laura Fryer.
Good afternoon. My name is Laura Casas Fryer, and I'm a homeowner and a mother of 3 children in Granada Hills. I'm here for them. I worry about the asthma and the allergies. I don't want to worry about cancer. Please order a health report. I know it was ordered, but it's never been done. Please ask that it be done before you vote. Word has it that the city council, it's a done deal, and you guys are going to go ahead and vote for this expansion. Please, before you do, order that health report and order other studies on alternative uses of land use dumping. Thank you.
Okay, Sophie Chu. All right, that's all the cards we have. We've had over 64 minutes of public testimony, public hearing. The public hearing is closed. Ms. Misakowski.
Mr. President, I think it's useful if we ask the staff to come forward and make a presentation. I know there is a majority report on the file and a minority report, but a number of the issues that have both been raised today by way of testimony, as well as letters that we've received, and in fact, information from the staff, I think is going to indicate that we may not be able to act on this matter today because there are a number of issues that have been raised relative to specific conditions, relative to the process itself, and particularly relative to issues as it relates to the city and an ability to negotiate with the county. But before we get into some of the details, I'd like to ask Mr. Sutton to make a presentation on the case.
Bob Sutton, representing the Planning Department.
Could we have a quiet here, please? Please.
At the Planning and Land Use Committee on August 17th, there was numerous directions that came out of the committee. There was a majority report. There were additional items that were brought forth at the committee that was not voted on. There was a minority report. The planning staff was directed to have several meetings with various departments. We have not finished our work at this point in time, and therefore we have not put a report on the table for the council consideration. We have done some of the work, we have not completed it, and it is important from our opinion that the matter be held over until we can finish our documents.
Just a second.
We are suggesting that the documents be held over since we have not completed our work, Councilman, and that the matter be continued, and I've heard the date of possibly October 20th.
Ms. Misakowski?
I believe that is a date that all members of the council will be here, but I'd like to go into a little bit more detail as to what those issues were. And I'm sure that Mr. Bernstein wants to speak as well, and Mr. Hernandez. We held a lengthy hearing in the Planning and Land Use Management Committee, and at our hearing, there were a number of issues that were raised by the North Valley Coalition, which is essentially a number of the members of people who spoke today, raising concerns about the relationship between the city and the county. And for those who are not familiar with the site that is being presented today is in the city of Los Angeles, part of an older landfill that occurred in the city of Los Angeles, which ceased operation by an order of the city and by investigations that occurred back at least a decade ago. At the same time, or very shortly thereafter, a landfill was opened under the same operation in the county, right across the city border. That landfill that's going on in the county right now was the subject of self-litigation, where the city of Los Angeles attempted to stop the county from going forward on that landfill. The city was not successful in that litigation, and as a consequence, a settlement occurred, whereas I think you heard actual access to that landfill in the county is through the city of Los Angeles. There is now, by the presentation of a full subsequent EIR on the entirety of the area, a proposal before us to allow the landfill to also come back into the city only under a joint operation authority with the county and with some specific conditions that the city has now added, dealing with some of the local enforcement issues that were talked about today. At the time of the committee hearing, we had new reports from the Bureau of Sanitation, from the Department of Environmental Quality in the city, from other agencies, including the Los Angeles Unified School District and the Santa Monica Mountain Conservancy, all of which addressed at the last minute in front of the Planning Committee, some issues that we thought, some members of the committee, in fact, I think all members of the committee, thought were relevant and were concerned that they had not been included in the Planning Commission conditions and report. So we sent that back to the staff and asked the staff to meet with each of those agencies that were making suggestions for changes, as well as the North Valley Coalition, which had a number of specific changes, some of which I think that the members of the committee felt were reasonable. It is those meetings that Mr. Sutton and Mr. Nick Brown, who is the hearing examiner, have attempted to hold, and many of them have been held, but not enough to finally reconcile all of those issues. So I would think that the request today by the staff to reconcile those issues and include some of the conditions that the community, as they testified today, have brought forward, need to be further defined and further specified as conditions of a report if it's to go forward. I would also like to take note that we've received a letter from Councilmember Fuhrer, which I'm sure he will speak to, and I think that the issues that he raises in his letter about further conditions, particularly as it refers in two areas, to the particulate matter and the issues at the school, Van Gogh Elementary, need to be further addressed, and we heard from the school's environmental advisor itself, as well as the issue of the franchise fee, which I think at an appropriate point the Legislative Analyst Office is also working on in concert with the County Administrative Officer as to whether and if and how there's an appropriate process for the city funding, and as a consequence of that, as it relates to Santa Monica Conservancy matters, a process of additional open space mitigation that should be in concert and should be a condition required of this if there's any approval that goes forward. So at this point, I do believe it's appropriate to have a continuation, and I think it's worthwhile to have other members of the council raise additional issues that you might feel are appropriate at this time to have the staff respond to and react to as it comes back to us, hopefully, and I will move the date, October 20th.
Yes, it needs a second. Mr. Burnson.
Yes, members of the council, first of all, I'm not going to repeat all the things. I think those of you that were listening, and I think you all were, heard the concerns of this community. They were listening, just because sometimes they're reading or doing other, they were listening. I've watched, they were in their seats most of the time. They were listening, believe me. I know this council. First of all, I'm not going to repeat the things they said. I think they covered all the ground, particularly some of the people have been involved in this battle for 20-some years. Long before I was in the council, I was part of this group because I too live in Granada Hills, just below the landfill. And I want to thank the coalition and all the people of Granada Hills who are here today and who have fought this valiant fight, and for showing up and giving me the support that you've shown. I appreciate it. I want to thank John Ferraro for allowing you all to speak. He was very generous today. Usually he's not that gracious, but I had to twist his arm a little bit. But he's really a teddy bear, believe me. But John, thank you for that consideration. Members of the council, I'm not going to repeat all these things. You know about the water supply, you know about the seismic things, you know about the wind, you know about the school. The mitigations that are being proposed that are going to be continued, that's the reason for the continuing this thing for these conditions, may be a sliver of doing something right, but this should not be approved, conditions or no conditions. One of the things that we have been remiss in, and I'm not just pinpointing the city of Los Angeles, but society in general, is the archaic method of dealing with our solid waste. It goes back to ancient times. We haven't changed. We're still burying our waste and endangering water supply, food supply, and health of our communities. We should be doing what other nations are doing, Japan, Germany, Europe, parts of the United States. Even in Long Beach, they have an energy conversion plant where solid waste is converted to energy and is done in a clean, fashion. So these are things that we have not done. We started to do the right thing years ago. Unfortunately, we did the right thing in the wrong manner. It was called Lancer. It was a project that would have converted solid waste energy, but where do we put it? Right in the middle of a residential minority community, and obviously, and rightfully so, it was defeated and put on the back burner. We need to look at these other technologies again in the right locations. I'll go along with the continuation. I appreciate the work of my colleagues, particularly my colleagues on the committee who were very diligent in listening and making suggestions. I hope that you'll listen and that ultimately we'll find another method of dealing with this, and Sunshine Canyon should not be allowed to expand. Thank you very much.
Mr. Fuhrer. Here we go.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. As Ms. Misikowski indicated, I have submitted a letter, colleagues, to you this morning. The letter discusses the fact that we are asking the residents of the North Valley to bear a burden for all of us in the city of Los Angeles, and I think we owe more than has been presented so far. And I want to discuss some of those things. First, I want to discuss very important mitigation issues at the site. And I'm urging colleagues that unless the measures I'm describing are enacted, that we reject the expansion. But because I think that these measures are crucial, and they include the following. We should require that BFI eliminate diesel-powered vehicles at this site. Diesel is extremely carcinogenic, very dangerous, and there are methods that are available now to convert diesel-powered vehicles. Next, regarding the school, we should place a monitor at Van Gogh Elementary, and we should mandate that if particulate levels measured by that monitor after commencement of this expansion exceed AQMD levels, that the landfill be shut down unless and until the landfill can comply with AQMD levels. Next, we should do as the school district has asked and require that standalone air conditioning units be put in place at the Van Gogh School so that, if necessary, those windows can be closed and the school function. Next, there is under contemplation the possibility of extending a franchise to BFI for this site. That franchise should generate millions of dollars a year, and that money should be allocable in at least the following way. First, there should be a fund created to create community enhancements in the North Valley in recognition of the burden to which I referred earlier. Next, part of that fund should be allocated to converting the city's diesel-powered trash truck fleet to clean burning. Next, part of that fee, franchise fee should be devoted to converting the privately operated trucks that go to the site, because those trucks too emit diesel emissions that are very dangerous. And also that fund should, in small part, also go to the general fund. In sum, we are asking a lot of residents of the North Valley, and we can do a better job than is on the table so far about addressing legitimate needs and goals for that community and all of us in the city of Los Angeles. And I hope that you join me in adopting the recommendations contained in the letter. Thank you.
Mr. Hernandez.
Members of the council, I also rise as a member of Plum who has participated as part of this debate. And one, I first want to commend Mr. Bernsen for the work he's done in representing his constituency and in regards to the environmental quality of the city of Los Angeles. It was back in 1973 when my roommate took me up to a landfill because he was doing a paper on landfills. And he was trying to explain to me the reality that these are systems that are needed because we didn't have a system of waste management as a city. And I remember Bishop Canyon, me going to visit it because it was in my district and it was a landfill that had basically for 25 years been settling, and me trying to get the city to fulfill its promise and reconverting it into open space. And that's where we have Little League diamonds now because of some of the actions of this council. I remember the tremendous debates we've had as a council in regards to our garbage pickup fee, that we don't charge residentials, but we do charge apartment dwellers. Basically, they have to pay for their garbage to be picked up, and people in single-family homes do not. I remember being part of a coalition that was fighting a prison in East LA, but also fighting some waste burning systems, not only Lancers, but potential one in Vernon. And our reality is, as a city, when I go to other cities and they talk about their populations of 30,000 and 50,000 people, they have no concept what it's like to be a city of 3.5 million people in a region that has to serve 10 million people. And the fact that we keep on running out of alternatives, because now we have 2 operating landfills, and the reality is one is going to be eliminated in a couple of years, and then we'll only have 1. And hopefully it'll be our last one. But everything comes down to money. And Mr. Fear, more than anything, as the Budget and Finance Chair, continues to remind us the cost factors as to how we operate this budget. And I think, again, mitigation measures are extremely important, and that's why I want to rise in support of the motion to continue this item so that the departments can continue their work. This is not a project that anybody's happy with, but the reality is it's a project that we still need to deal with. And so hopefully through constant mitigation and review, we will know what it's going to cost us, not only in terms of its impact on neighborhoods, but also in terms of the dollars it'll cost the city budget, and we can make the best decision we can under those circumstances. Again, I simply rose to support the motion to continue this item so that we could look at those mitigation measures, and to commend Mr. Burnson for his work. This process is a difficult one, and that's what we're going through right now. But sorry to say, we have to make a decision, and it doesn't go away.
Mr. Wax.
Mr. President, members of council, obviously I support the additional conditions that have been imposed, but I think Mr. Burnson is right in stating that all of the conditions in the world still beg the fundamental question of whether or not a city in today's times can continue to rely upon landfill, whether an urban landfill is something that is acceptable in today's times. That's the fundamental question. It has been put off endlessly over the years as we have debated reducing, recycling, reusing, all of the other things that we have debated over the years, some successfully, some only giving lip service to, as to whether or not urban landfills are really something that should remain. I fought hard to prevent an expansion in Griffith Park. I fought hard to close down Lopez. The problem I have with the issue before us today is really, I think one woman put it best, would you want to do to somebody else what you really wouldn't be willing to do to yourself? And that's the fundamental issue. But the other side of the coin is that if you're not willing to do it, are you willing to pay the price of the alternatives? And well, of course you are, but it's everybody who will be asked to do it. The first thing I need from staff, and I'd hope that we could continue it even a week beyond, because I won't be here on the 20th, and if it could go the next week, I notice we'll all still be here. What I need to know from staff, and I want it accurate, but I want it understandable. What are the various alternatives, and just what do they cost everybody if we were to adopt an alternative to using, to relying on an urban landfill for the disposal of our waste? We need to know what the alternatives are, and we need to know the costs. And then we have to make a fundamental decision of whether or not we're willing to share that cost among all of our constituents or put the whole brunt of it onto the people who happen to be there. One of the things that I've talked about, Mr. Burns, of possibilities, for example, of a citywide system of neighborhood councils, was that if we had a citywide network, the people in this neighborhood could have the discussion with the people in all the other neighborhoods and maybe enlist their support in more costly alternatives, appealing to them on the simple equity that, would you want it in your neighborhood? Well, if you don't want it in yours, and you don't want it in yours, and you don't want it in yours, join with us, but you have to be willing then to pay the cost of what that alternative is. We need that kind of a dialogue in the city. We are the substitute for it right now. We are doing it ourselves as the representatives of our constituents. But to make fundamental policy change, to change from, for example, relying on urban landfills, and to gain the kind of support you need for that, knowing that there's a cost to it, we've got to generate support among our own constituencies. And the kind of dialogue that could occur in this city on broader, these are not just neighborhood issues. This is not just an issue to the people in Granada Hills. This is a citywide issue, and we have to deal with it in that context. And we need to generate a citywide alternative if we're not going to go ahead with this. And to do that requires education and understanding among the people who are not in the area, as well as the people who are obviously here today because it's in their area.
Thank you, Mr. Wack.
What I want the staff just to do, let me just ask the staff that when we have this back, I want from you a meaningful and clear-cut, easy-to-read, what are all the alternatives and what is the cost of those, not only in a total, but if it was spread out among the various taxpayers of the city of Los Angeles, and then we'll have a really
Thank you,
interesting
Mr.
debate.
Wack. Mr. Holden.
Mr. Burnson, this is your district, right? And Mr. Burnson is saying that he doesn't see why they should have any expansion. What's your position? You close the place down? Huh?
Very well, because you supported me when we fought the county against opening it.
yeah.
So now we did close it in the city portion, you supported me again there, okay?
I'm always going to
So my
support.
position is that it shouldn't be there in the first place, either in the city or the county.
All right. There's your answer. It's been written. We did the same thing with Lopez. I know when I first got elected, the people were down here pleading with us. Please do not extend the Lopez Canyon operation. And the council members, some of them said they wouldn't do it. Then they got elected, and then they did it. They kept extending. Then some of them were running for office, and then they said they wouldn't do it, and then when the election was over, they went ahead and did it anyway. So, I mean, so when Mr. Alarcon, Mr. Bernardi was fighting against that Lopez Canyon all by himself, and I just felt that he needed some support, and I stayed right with him. And then when Mr. Alarcon came aboard, we were able to be very successful. Mr. Alarcon made it all happen. Mr. Bernardi came down for the celebration with many of you who are here today. And I just want you to know that I was touched by the lady, and I was listening, although she maybe didn't think I was, who said her two children have cancer, and they were concerned about the impact of the health of the people living in that general area. I think if we see a long history of that, we ought to study it before we do anything. We might have to close it. And so, Mr. President, you know, look, I know that people say, well, let's go along with it, and let's keep it open, let's mitigate it, let's make some changes. But you don't start worrying about health until it's your health. And it can happen to each and every one of us. And I would say to you that if my vote is going to make sure that some other child don't get cancer in that environment, be assured that it's going to be cast in your favor, in the favor of your child.
Okay. All right, we have a motion to continue until, what's it, October 20th?
October 26th, that's the date. Well, 26th is also the first day all members of the council will be here. That'll be a Tuesday, October 26th.
Yeah, that's as of now.
No.
Yeah, sure. Okay, then if there's no objections, we'll continue this until October 26th. The next, Mr. Pacheco, you want to reconsider item number 2?
Yes, and ask for it to be continued to October 8th.
Yeah, is there any objections to that? Did you? Seeing none, that will be the order. All right. The next item. Which one is?
Item number 9.
Is that a closed session item? An item number 9, Mr. Hahn. Okay. Mr. Hahn, on number 9.
Yeah, Mr. President, members of the council, this is a request for the council to approve an agreement with outside counsel to assist the city attorney in litigation against gun manufacturers and distributors. This is a lawsuit we filed in June to try and change the way the gun industry does business. The focus of the lawsuit is actions brought under 17200 of the Business and Professions Code, seeking injunctive relief and civil penalties, force gun manufacturers to improve the safety of their products to prevent accidental injuries and deaths, and also to force them to change their distribution system to keep guns out of the hands of criminals, juveniles, and others who shouldn't have them, prevent straw purchasers from purchasing guns and reselling them on the street. The agreement is with two law firms that worked with the city successfully in the tobacco litigation, firm of Milberg, Weiss, Burchard, Hines, and Larac, and firm of Leaf, Cabraser, Hyman, and Bernstein. Both these firms have worked previous for us on contingency basis. They recognize that we will be controlling the litigation. They will be assisting us. The contingent fee agreement with them provides that they will receive 18% of any monetary recovery or settlement that is paid to the City of Los Angeles and other counties that they are also representing. In addition, the agreement caps costs. Both the City of San Francisco and the City of Los Angeles have agreed to pay $100,000 in costs. The remaining $50,000 is put up by the 9 smaller cities who are joining us in this litigation. Our contribution is coming from the City Attorney's liability claims account, so there's no need to appropriate any money. We're simply here to ask the council to approve the retention of outside counsel. The number of law firms who are representing the gun manufacturers on the other side is considerable, and so we need the help of outside counsel to make this a level playing field.
Mrs. Chick?
Yes, I'm very supportive of Mr. Hahn's wanting to go forward with this, and I am supportive of our needing the outside assistance if he recommends it. My only question is that I have heard about some major problems that one of the members of the first firm mentioned have recently undergone, and a very large finding against one of the members of that firm, and simply ask for your reassurance that they are not in any kind of financial difficulty and will in fact be able to give us the assistance that that you feel we merit.
Yeah, I'm aware of the incident that you're mentioning. This is quite a large law firm. Obviously, they have had considerable revenues over the years. I think they can afford even the significant amount of money that's being discussed in regards to that. I'm not familiar with all the details. The lawyer who is working with us from the Milberg Weiss firm is a lawyer named Pat Coughlin, who's not connected in any way in that incident. He worked with us on the tobacco case.
Okay, thanks for the reassurance.
Mr. Holden?
Mr. Hahn, you're batting 1,000. You won in a cigarette lawsuit and brought millions of dollars to the city of Los Angeles. And we going to hope that you'll keep up that batting average with this lawsuit against the gun manufacturers. We shouldn't hesitate on this issue. For an example, we know how many people annually, not just in the nation, but certainly right here at home, who lose their life due to unauthorized persons and also by accidents using handguns. Almost a day don't go by where we can read in the newspaper or watch on television. I think the people of this city are very happy that we have this kind of leadership, and we're moving forward to control influx and misuse of the handgun here in the city of Los Angeles. This law firm, You worked with them before, Mr. Hahn?
Pardon?
You worked with this law firm before?
Yes, we work with both of these law firms in the tobacco litigation.
So they batting 1,000 also?
In that regard, especially in regard to representing multiple cities as plaintiffs, they were very good at coordinating that work.
Well, then I enthusiastically support you in this request. I'm going to vote aye.
Mr. Wax?
Would you tell us exactly why we need outside counsel rather than doing it from within?
The reason is simply a question of resources. The number of, we have over 40 defendants. Many of those have hired some of the largest law firms in the country. And so this is going to be very deposition intensive, discovery intensive, with a lot of appearances, a lot of discovery, similar to the tobacco litigation where hundreds and hundreds of depositions were taken. We simply don't have the resources, the number of people necessary to cover something like
Doesn't it
this.
cost more for outside lawyers to do it than our own? They get paid more.
It would. You know, we're in this regard, we've told the outside law firm that you know, we will only pay. We're only appropriating $100,000 for costs. We would pay that anyway. They're on a contingent fee basis.
Mr. Holden mentioned the cigarette one. Did we use outside lawyers for that too?
Yes.
You know, we just endlessly use outside lawyers, and one wonders why we don't. I think all of us here agree on the substance of the lawsuit. The question is, do we constantly need outside lawyers for all of these cases? And that's really the issue before us, as opposed to doing it ourselves.
The only reason to use outside lawyers is these kinds of cases come up once in a while. If I knew we were going to have one of these every year, I would ask the council to appropriate funds to hire more staff. But this is the kind of thing where they can throw 40 lawyers at it, and we certainly can't. And their ability to do that at their expense, based only on the hope of a contingent recovery, is something that we're not
But
prepared
they'll
to
throw
do. 40
lawyers whether we use outside ones or whether we use our own. I mean, that's their tactic, to try to.
No, but I mean, but our outside lawyers can throw 40 lawyers back at them, and we can't. We simply can't.
Well, if they throw 40 lawyers, they're going to charge us. They're going to charge somebody. They're not doing it for
Well,
for free.
they're doing it on a contingency
basis. Do we share in any of the contingency?
No, I mean, they would get 18% of any recovery we get. In other words, if we recovered $100,000, they'd be entitled to $18,000 of our recovery.
Is that sharing dependent more or less on how much we give them or not? I mean, would we get more, share more if we gave more and share less if we gave less? How does he calculate? How did that get calculated?
Well, the County of Los Angeles has also negotiated a contingent fee agreement where it's a total contingency fee agreement. They're paying 22% on a contingent basis.
So these lawyers are getting 40% then?
These are getting, and no, their lawyers are getting
Total from the two.
22% of the county's recovery, but they're not paying. The county's not advancing any costs.
Why-
We're advancing costs.
If the
and getting
county's
a
not
lower-
advancing them, why are we?
We wanted to get this law, you know, the county got in this way after we did. We needed to get this litigation underway, and we wanted to
If
we
the
think it's
county's
worth-
doing it already, they're going to have this lawsuit whether we join or not. So if we're joining, we're really.
No, we filed the first lawsuit in California in June. The county just filed their lawsuit this last month. You know, we are underway with, our lawyers have already filed motions and
Are the
argued
two-
motions in court.
Are the cases joined?
They have not been joined yet.
Will they be? I mean, it would seem likely.
Possibility,
We
I don't-
wouldn't go down the line having two separate parallel
It's a
cases.
possibility they could be joined. They have not been joined yet, as yet.
Mr. Fuhr?
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually pushed my button to just clarify some of the issues that Mr. Wax was raising. Again, in sum, this action before us allocates $100,000 that would be spent no matter who the lawyers were, because there are raw costs associated with prosecuting this litigation, correct?
Yeah, we would have to pay those costs in any
That's right. So it's
regard.
$100,000. We pay it either through other lawyers or through our own lawyers. We're paying that. And the law firms that are working with us are working completely on a contingent fee basis, as has emerged in discussion. So, you know, there are other issues about long-term staffing in the city attorney's office. On this case, this, I think, is a sensible approach. The law firms involved are good law firms. And I want to say that Mr. Hahn and his staff internally have also been working very hard on this litigation. It isn't merely that the matter is being farmed out to others. I've been getting reports. I've been receiving copies of pleadings that have been filed in the litigation so far. And I think that I just want to be sure that we're clear. it's not merely they're doing it for us. The city attorney's office, at least from everything I've been reviewing, has been very vigilant about actually taking a lead and parceling out work and reviewing and revising it as others have been working on it. Is that a correct assessment of this?
That's correct. We have 3 attorneys in our staff working on this right now. Carmel Sella and Mark Burton and Don Cass are all working on this lawsuit. You're right, we are reviewing the work of outside lawyers. We are supervising that work, and we'll continue to do that throughout the lawsuit. Again, costs, as you understand very well, Councilman Feuer, would have to be borne anyway. We have to pay to have depositions taken. We have to hire experts. We would have to pay those costs anyway. The legal fees, though, by the contingent lawyers are not going to be billed to us. Their only recovery is if we get a monetary recovery.
Right. I rise in support of this matter. It did come through committee. I think it's a very basic step that we have to take, and I really want to commend the hard work of the city attorney's office on this matter. It's going to be a very long road to hoe here. We're just beginning on this path, but I think it's the right thing to do, and it dovetails with legislation, including a motion that is pending before the Public Safety Committee now, that would require guns in the city of Los Angeles to be sold only if they meet certain safety specifications that are also among the goals of the litigation. Thank you.
That's correct.
Mr. Holden, for a second time.
Mr. President, I just want to comment very briefly. I just didn't think that this topic would generate this kind of discussion. I thought it would be over and done with. I mean, how long do we have to have our water polluted, our air polluted, people dying from cigarettes, guns, weapons? And, gee, I just want to say that, Mr. Hahn, I'm glad you stepped up to the plate first in each of those areas where we now are recovering monies that we would not have recovered. I would just hope that your successor would carry on in the tradition that you've already set for that office. I personally want to commend you and join many of the people in this city who will do the same, giving note to the fact that you have been successful in this regard. These are big outfits. I mean, every time you read the newspaper, the tobacco company is saying, no, we're going to fight back. No, we're not going to cave in. But this city attorney, this city is facing them. This city is fighting them. And we're going to fight the gun manufacturers as well. It's a big outfit. NRAs just won't go away easily. They just won't die. They have spokespersons not only in the city but on the council as well. But I want to commend you. And I again ask for an aye vote.
Okay, prepare the roll on item number 9. Tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Mr. Holden, you were very successful. You got a unanimous vote. Okay. And item 23 forthwith. All right, item number 8. Item number 8, we've already had a hearing, but there are some people who want to be heard. And a 5-minute hearing? Okay, 5-minute hearing. Okay, Alan Fisher, and then Robert Godzaza, Greenlean Institute. 5 minutes, so.
I will try and be quick. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Alan Fisher from the California Reinvestment Committee. We're a statewide coalition working on community reinvestment issues of 200 nonprofits from around the state. I speak in favor of item number 8. I think the committee and the Treasurer's Office have done a good job. I think it's important that the city pass this. I think it's a way of making a positive leadership statement. You've lost 6 major financial institutions, branches, jobs, office space. This is a way of beginning to look at what's really going on. I think it's excellent leverage. Most of these banks are now owned and have headquarters out of state. They don't understand what Los Angeles is like, what California is like, its diversity. So I speak in favor of this.
Thank you. Okay, Robert, I don't know how to pronounce it.
I'll give it to you, but you're close enough. Robert Gnezda of the Greenlining Institute. We're also a statewide organization. The groups we represent include the Latin Business Association, the Black Business Association of LA, First AME Church.
Just tell us what you like about this.
Yes.
We don't care who you represent.
We fully support it. We believe it's the most comprehensive and potentially most effective community reinvestment ordinance in the country. We believe it will make the Federal Reserve, which has practiced benign neglect toward the inner cities, a secondary role and will propel this city into leadership. And we believe it will be replicated statewide if you pass it. And I give you its importance in this context. Consider that in this city, banks provide 2% of their total loan portfolio to Latinos, 1% to African American-owned businesses, 1% for contracts, and 0.1% of their pre-tax income goes for inner-city investments. So we ask you to resoundingly approve this ordinance. Thank you.
If you, Gilda Haas and then Richard Amador.
Good afternoon, Gilda Haas, the founder of Communities for Accountable Reinvestment and the director of Strategic Actions for a Just Economy. We're a LA grassroots community organization that's been working to reverse the impact of historic redlining by banks and to promote community banking in Los Angeles for about the last 10 years. And people have talked about why this is good for the city, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about that this ordinance could be even more powerful for individual consumers. Over the past 10 years, I've received countless calls from consumers who want to know which banks in LA are good, and what they really want to know is which banks do good. And this ordinance can serve as an objective guide for the city as well as for the rest of us who are trying to answer that question. Support the ordinance. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, Richard Amador and then Chesela Al-Mansour.
Hello, I'm Richard Amador, President of Charter Community Development Corporation in East Los Angeles. This is a good piece of legislation. It's good business for banks because it's doing some community investment. We need to provide the technical resources and bring it. We want to encourage the city to work with SBA certified intermediaries because banks will have a return on the investment. They make money on the loans, and we're seeking that they communicate and work with the certified intermediaries so that we can expand that service to everyone. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Almas, and then Michael Banner next.
Good afternoon. I'm Chancellor Al-Mansour at San Fernando Valley Neighborhood Legal Services. As you know, there are very few bank branches in South Central LA, only one in the 80,000 resident community of Pacoima. The federal government has implemented the electronic funds transfer program by which it is sending all government benefits by direct deposit to FDI-insured financial institutions. If you are low income and live in these communities with no banks, then there's no way for you to access your money other than to receive paper checks. I speak in favor of these rules and regulations. I only ask that when you negotiate and execute these contracts with financial institutions, you require them to put at least 1, 5, maybe 10 bank branches in communities such as Pacoima and South Central Los Angeles where there are no bank branches. Otherwise, you're basically sabotaging this whole project if you do not require them to open more bank branches. Thank you.
Okay, Michael Banner.
I'm Michael Banner, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Los Angeles LDC, and I rise to speak in support of this ordinance. It's personal to me since I was involved in the initial work to create the ordinance some 6 years ago. I also think it will give the City of Los Angeles the ability to have real discussions with financial institutions about what your financial needs are for the city, in addition to your own services, but how they will intend to serve the rest of the communities. And I'd like to take this opportunity to bring to the attention of those of you who may not know, there's a merger acquisition that is underway right now with U.S. Bancorp, who is entering this market and appears will end up being as large a financial service provider as Bank of America and Wells Fargo. And they are doing so with what is arguably a poor performance in this area of community reinvestment. Additionally, they're already a major service provider to the City of Los Angeles, and I think this ordinance will give you ability now to actually have a dialogue with them where community groups have not been successful in bringing them to the table to talk about meaningful community reinvestment. I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Okay, thank you. That's all the cards we have, so the public hearing is closed. Mr. Hernandez.
Mr. President, members of the council, I'm glad to hear that all the spokespersons who deal in the financial world of communities are in support of this measure. And I think it's been over 5 years that Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas and I first introduced this concept to the city, because we need to start measuring what's going on in the banking industry in terms of how it's serving communities. And I think that we're going to find that bigger is not better when it came to local communities, and the reality that banks tend to treat our communities like ATMs and don't even give us a PIN number, so we can't really participate in full financial opportunities that exist out there. Although we do earn dollars and we do spend dollars, they just have to accomplish much less than they do in other communities. And I think that's why it's important for the city of Los Angeles, when it's doing its business and making its investments, it take the opportunity of the nexus to measure the quality of service that's being provided in communities. And that's what this bank linking ordinance is about. So to give us a measurement so that we know what is really going on. It's not sufficient for a bank to say we invest in a community when all they're doing is purchasing foreclosed mortgages. What they need to do is provide the capital so that communities can buy a home, so that communities can basically cash a paycheck without having to pay a fee for that check, so that they can go to the store and buy their goods. It's not sufficient that in our communities, utility companies and basically check cashing services provide the services that other communities receive through the banking industries. So to me, this is a very important ordinance. It's a very important step for the city, and it's going to require constant vigilance on our part, but it's a tool we're going to be able to use, and I just ask for unanimous vote. Again, it's something we've been working on for over 5 years, and we have to give credit to staff, the Treasurer's Office, and all the community groups that participated in this process.
Ms. Goldberg?
Yes, I'm very happy that these regulations are finally ready. I want to thank everyone involved, including the Treasurer's Office and all of the folks who spoke today and have come to CED committee with testimony over the time. You know, we've been hit very hard in Los Angeles with branch closures, which include job losses, real estate vacancies, disinvestment. 6 major California financial institutions have moved their headquarters. And to give you just a pint-sized view of this from one branch in Echo Park, it was first a Sumitomo, then it became a United California Bank, then it became Security Pacific, then it became First Interstate, then it became Wells Fargo, and now it's closed altogether. And instead of a bank, they're at the same exact location, there's now a laundromat with a check cashing place and high-interest advanced loans on your paycheck. And that's the financial institution that's now available to the residents who live in the area of Alvarado and Sunset. And all of this has happened amidst reassurances continuously during hearings that this would not happen, that these branches would not be closed, particularly where it was our only branch in the area, Wells Fargo told me at those hearings. And they didn't even bother to put up a permanent sign when they took over the branch, because they knew it was closing. They just put a drapery over it. And then one day you went by and the drapery was was gone, and the bank was simply closed. So I think that it's very important for us to do this. It's an inexpensive program. All of the things that we're talking about cost about less than $19,000. Banks are interested in the city of Los Angeles's business. U.S. Bank, the one that was just referred to, is the trustees for the city's bond issues to the tune of about $209 million. Bank of America has $35 million in city deposits, Wells Fargo $1.5 million, Imperial Bank $2.5 million. U.S. Bank right now is gobbling up banks in Los Angeles County, Santa Monica Bank, Bank of Commerce, Peninsula Bank, to name just a few. And their promises show that they have less commitment with their new larger size to investment in minority and low-income communities than they are currently doing as a smaller bank. And yet they are touting that as we go along. So this is an important issue. It's a small item on our screen perhaps, but I think the impact will be enormous. And it gives us an opportunity. I also think it's important to note that this started, I believe, with a motion by Mark Ridley Thomas and I think Mike Hernandez, and that finally we are at the regulation stage and we can now begin to put some pressure to say if you want our deposits, you want to do business with us, that you have to be able to make it affect all communities in the LA area, not just that. Okay. So I did have a question on the living wage portion of this. If someone could answer it, that would be helpful.
Would you answer it, Mike?
The report includes a line that says that it would not be possible to isolate staff and provide services to the city so that the banks are exempted from living wage. And I wondered if staff could explain.
Staff's coming up.
Since we have other businesses that are asked to isolate people who are working on city contracts.
The report this year was made by the CAO's office, and a finding was in place that the banks were exempt at this point in time. That finding will be reviewed again next year.
All right, Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Mr. President, members of the council, I rise simply to say that what gave impetus to the linked banking ordinance in 1991-1992 was the acute concern that the Community Reinvestment Act was not being taken seriously enough, and that redlining in the financial industry was a reality with which we were obliged to contend. Since that time, the city's one bank with which it did business has no longer been our policy. We have several banks that do with whom or with which we deposit, which was a companion piece that we put forward. The Treasurer's Office at that time put a lot of emphasis on making sure that we weren't reliant on simply one bank, but in fact banked with several banks to create competition. This then is an important piece. Both Mr. Hernandez, Ms. Goldberg have indicated that a number of organizations, communities for responsible investment, SAGE, the whole range of activists who've been involved in this, predating the mega mergers, working on this economic justice and economic development agenda is what has been in place for a considerable amount of time. And so I take this opportunity to say that this is in fact overdue. It is important that it is here now. What ought to be added is the fact that the Community Reinvestment Act at a federal level, when it was enacted in 1977, is now in trouble, and there's a lot being done to dismantle it, and yet we take the position by the advancement of this policy to say that we will go beyond the limits and the toothlessness of the current federal law that is being flouted in many respects by a number of financial institutions, to tighten the reins and say that commercial, mortgage, credit line, and a whole range of things that ought to be made available to consumers throughout the city of Los Angeles will be the standard by which we determine whether or not we will do business with those that wish to do business with us. So I think this is momentous. Ms. Walters has been actively involved in this all along. We did enjoy a unanimous vote when it was adopted some years ago. I rise to appeal to you to adopt this unanimously now and send a message that I think we can all be very proud of. Thank you very kindly.
Mrs. Chick.
Yes, I'm also pleased to be supporting this and ask for perhaps clarification from my colleagues who have been involved in the beginning, how this hopefully connects to the fact that we have been looking to our lending institutions to participate in a more proactive way in funding some of our blighted buildings whose property owners are interested in making repairs but don't have the financial ability to do so. And I remember with some dismay about a year ago attending with the mayor and others a press conference as we were transferring code enforcement on multiple family from building and safety to the housing department, and very much knowing that we needed to rely on the private sector lending institutions to help fund the renovation and rehabilitation of some of our deteriorating housing stock, and yet a year plus later we have seen very little action. And so I'm hoping that besides giving loans for single home purchases, et cetera, that larger program is something that is also going to be tracked and will be part of the feedback that we're getting, and perhaps someone could clarify that for me.
Yeah, and just to answer the question, I think what this is going to do is give us the tool to measure the performance of banks in certain communities in a variety of portfolios, and for us to have that information to us as opposed to hiding it in different ways. And that's one of the charges that we're giving the Treasurer's Office to do in its measurements, to give us the kind of information of the actual types of investments that are being made in communities by the banking institutions that we are doing business with. And we might find out that they might be participating at press conferences but not doing what they say they're going to do. To this date, we're still looking for a relationship between the Community Development Bank and the banking institutions that made commitments to participate in that process. And again, you mentioned the Slumlord Task Force work in the blighted apartment buildings and the commitments that were made there. And there was just an editorial by a task force member that said not a single dollar has been invested in regards to that. And we need to know exactly what's going on so that we can make our decisions. And when we can get our pension funds to look at this bank linkage ordinance as a tool and to review their investments, I think that's going to be a tremendous link, because that's where banks are really making a profit, serving as trustees of those funds.
Okay, we have item number 8 before us. Prepare the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
That is approved forthwith. Okay. Mr. Pacheco, forthwith, I did that already. Mr. Pacheco.
Council President, may we take item 22 out of order? I was excused at 12, and I definitely want to deal with 22 before I need to make my next appointment.
Is there any objections to taking 22? Seeing none. Mr. Shapiro.
Mr. President and council members, item 22 concerns the extension of the Community Redevelopment Agency budget for approved a 60-day limit, and it's necessary. They need more time on this. I think before people, like the city council, make up your mind what you're going to do about this matter of the Community Redevelopment Agency, I think you got to understand why they were formed and why it was set up and how they operate. One of the reasons they were set up was state law was passed allowing councils and different organizations to remove blight, and the main reason was to remove blight. And to do this, they allowed the agencies to use the money that was generated when they removed the blight. You put up a building, the building paid taxes, you got the increase in taxes, which wasn't bad. But then after a while, they set up the project area, and for years, the valuation of all properties went up 2% a year approximately, each year. And all this 2%, which had no connection with the CRA, went to the CRA. So the CRA lived high on the hog. They got all this increase in money instead of it going to the city council. And now that the property is not increasing at that rate, or at decreasing in some cases, the money is not available and they're in trouble. The second point to be raised about the CRA is that each CRA project was set up for a certain limited period, a 20-year period, a 30-year period. And after you did the renovation and you removed the blight and the buildings were put up and things were set up, it reverted back to the city, got back to the rolls, the CRA tax increment ceased, and the city got all the money back again. That's the way it was supposed to be, but that is not the way it worked. They never let any project area finish. They never let the tax money revert to the city council and the city use. It was always kept on for one reason or the other, and they kept on receiving the tax increment. That's the way they lived, that's the way they operated, that's the way they did it. Right now, it's on a small scale, and different council members are aware that they can still get a little bit of tax increment to be used, but it isn't a heck of a lot, and it's down. And now they're in trouble. Now the city council was discussing taking over the functions of the CRA themselves, because why should the money stick for one group of people when it belongs to you? It belongs to the city council and the citizens of this city. The project should not last 40 or 50 years. They should be completed.
Thank you, Mr. Shapiro. Mr. Pacheco.
Council members, Mr. President, I'd also, at this time, would like to amend the motion to include, to read a 3-week extension to October 21st, because Councilmember Ridley Thomas has a major meeting on October 18th to deal with the budget and all the projects that are in his district, so I deference to Councilmember Ridley Thomas. He would like an opportunity to review it with his community constituents before he comes back to us, because he has the bulk of the projects. And so I would move it to October 21st.
October 21st? Okay.
He's on the phone right now, but.
Ms. Goldberg?
Yes, okay, I understand that, that makes sense. I just don't want it to delay it much longer. I want to say I have now read about 2/3 of the document, and it is the first time since I have been here that you can actually follow where the money goes and where it comes from. Well, no, but that's really critical, so I'm anxious to get this document in some version in place, because we have, as you know, in Hollywood, a number of things going on, and over the last many years, all we've been able to tell is that there's a document that's passed, and then 3 weeks later, it's no longer valid anymore. This document will actually be, from the time it's approved, or some version of it's approved, in place, and you'll be able to track where the money goes. And I think that's a substantial improvement. I'm anxious to get underway, but I understand the need that you're talking about. I have no problem, but please, let's try to do it in 3 weeks. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Hernandez.
Members of the council, I also want to urge us to complete this process, and I will stand to support the extension. Yesterday at the CED committee was the first time we had a project that basically was in Council District 9 dealing with 108 funds to the tune of about $3.8 million for purposes of a development project. And it was a CRA project that was coming out of the Community Development Department, and it seemed unusual because it was coming out of Community Development, but the reality is CRA has no funding to be able to do the kind of economic development that still needs to be done, particularly in the historic core. And the other reality, in committee, we're dealing with the basically strain of now our 108 funds, and the fact that most of it is dedicated to a particular level. So all our economic development tools are being impacted at this time. And so it's important that we start coordinating our resources. And again, the CRA's ability to function and their budget is part of that coordination. So again, I will support the continuance, but at the same time, understand the urgency for the work that needs to be done.
Okay, then we have item 22 to continue until October 21.
And didn't vote on it at that time? Wait a minute.
There's no objections, that would be the order.
It's an amendment to the motion to continue the work plan and budget of the CRA until 10/21.
Mr. Holden wants to be heard.
Mr. President, how would that affect the motion before us? That means you'll have 60 days beyond that point? No?
That, October 21 is the date that we will deal with the budget.
That's the drop dead date.
That's the drop.
Now, why are you asking for to October 21st?
Out of consideration for not only Councilmember Ridley Thomas's meeting with his community and constituents on the different developments that are occurring in his district.
The 21st is a Thursday. We are not going to meet that day, I don't think,
Okay.
unless you want a special meeting.
No. The next, what would be the next regular meeting? The 22nd? Then maybe make it the 22nd.
Now, I have some items in the
There are
budget.
we also still need reports from the CLA and the CAO on the budget. So everyone needs an opportunity to give the thorough input on the budget.
You know, I
That's
just
why.
want to say, before we had the changeover and had the new director, there was a lot of discussion here about, let's not give an extension at all. Let's adopt the budget that was being recommended at that time by that administration with CRA, okay?
This is for us to review it.
I understand what's
Okay.
happening. Now the tables are turning is what I'm saying.
Huh?
But we at one point were saying, let's adopt it now, let's adopt it now, let's hold our feet to the fire, and that was a discussion. That was the battle cry, in other words. And now, nobody seems to be in a hurry. Okay. Ms. Goldberg, you in a hurry? Okay. All right, Ms. Goldberg's in a hurry, but if she's willing to wait, then I'll wait with her.
Okay.
Okay, that'll be great, Nate. So we're amending the report, and there's no objections to that, so that'll be the order. Okay, item number 10. Philip Holmesy, yeah, and Charlotte D. Armand.
Good afternoon, council members, Mr. President. I'd like to speak.
Sorry to keep you waiting, but
That's
you
okay.
know we haven't been loafing.
You've been busy this morning. I'd like to speak against 10A and ask you to vote no on that and vote yes on 10B. And as I understand the differences between those two, is that in 10B, the Children's Museum, the approval of the negative declaration to construct the Children's Museum on the Riverside Drive site is omitted from 10B, and that's what I'm objecting to, the negative declaration approving the Children's Museum on the Riverside Drive site. And the basis of that is that the negative declaration, I believe, is legally flawed with respect to the Riverside Drive site. The negative declaration addresses issues on land owned by Recreation and Parks for that site. Unfortunately, though, in the site plan that's also included in the negative declaration, which is figure 4 in that declaration, depicts the museum to be constructed not only on Recreation and Park land, but also on Department of Water and Power land. And that is specifically what we object to. And as a result, the negative declaration did not consider any of the impact of building the Children's Museum on the Department of Water and Power property, which is the Mulholland Fountain property. Three important issues that were not considered in the negative declaration as a result of that confusion in the report. One, the fountain itself is a historic monument. Two, there are 14 cedar trees located on the fountain property that are designated historic monuments. And probably most importantly, there is a 66-inch water tunnel that runs 10 foot beneath the DWP site, which is made of brick, and it is part of the original water system designed by Mr. Mulholland, which today carries water to South Central LA. And because the negative declaration does not consider in its impact using the Department of Water and Power property, it omits to consider those three important aspects. And so what we would ask is that you not approve the negative declaration with respect to the Children's Museum. And in the alternative, if you were going to do that, that you put an express condition on that approval, that the approval of the negative declaration does not include approval of the Department of Water Power site, and that any intended use of the Department of Water Power property require a full environmental impact report before that property can be used. Now, Recreation and Parks Commission approved the negative declaration, but at the time that they had it under consideration, they didn't know that it was water and power property. That we brought to their attention at the hearing, and of course they didn't have much time to consider that and didn't know whether it was true or not. But in fact, it is true. To tell you how misinformed Recreation and Parks Commission was, they approved a lease, a 50-year lease at $1 a year on the same day. Now, the legal description of that lease includes a 144-unit apartment building that the city doesn't own, a gas station that the city doesn't own, and it also includes Immaculate Heart High School. So in fact, your Recreation and Parks Commission has approved a lease of the Immaculate Heart High School for $1 a year to the Children's Museum, and the city of LA doesn't own any of those things. So it was a rush to put this project together, and it is ill-conceived. And I would ask that if you're going to spend $9.5 million for the Children's Museum, which itself is unprecedented, that at least you consider the aspects of the negative declaration, and I would ask that you today ensure that the Department of Water and Power property is not going to be used as part of that Children's Museum unless there's a full impact report. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlotte?
My name is Charlotte DeArmond, and I'm here speaking for the Board of Directors of the Los Feliz Improvement Association. We ask you today to approve 10B2. And we ask you to do that because there has not been ample study, review of the negative declaration for the Children's Museum at the time of the hearing on September 15th of the Recreation and Parks Commission. Everybody was reduced to such a brief permission to speak that there was no way to give study and analysis of what is essentially a completely flawed negative declaration. By delaying approval of funds, you give time for there to be appropriate study, diagnostic analysis, and the opportunity to come up with a approval for a children's museum to be at a site that is free and clear and able to accommodate that new structure. Thank you so much.
Juliet Kuiperman, and then Christine O'Brien.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and council members. My name is Juliet Kipperman. I'm a member of the Los Feliz community. As a mother and grandmother who has had the pleasure of watching her children and her children's children enjoy the Los Angeles Children's Museum experience, I strongly support a new and expanded children's museum and believe it is very important, but needs to go through proper and correct procedures to materialize. After close review, it is clear that there are many serious mistakes and much confusion concerning the approved lease and negative declaration. I am opposed to allocating Prop K money for the Children's Museum until it can be carefully and legally planned. Thank you very much.
Christine O'Brien, and then Candace Barrett.
Good morning, council members. I am Christine O'Brien, and today I'm here to discuss my opposition for the Prop K funding to the Children's Museum. The Children's Museum was never a named project in the 1996 Proposition K. Voters did not designate their tax dollars to this particular project. Section 6 of the Prop K ordinance outlines criteria for competitive grants. As you know, this is another way funds can be allocated. If you review the ordinance document, you will see the Children's Museum only meets one of the 8 criteria for funding. As a citizen serving on the Prop K VNOC, which is the Volunteer Neighborhood Oversight Committee, I felt you should be aware of the consensus among all regional VNOC members to oppose allocating money to the Children's Museum. The VNOC is comprised of 2 appointed citizens from each council district. These members met over a period of 2 to 3 months and discussed Prop K projects and advised from the citizens' perspective the proper allocation of funds, either through grants or 5-year plan projects. 2 years ago, the Children's Museum submitted a grant for Prop K money. I reviewed that grant and recommended it not be considered for allocation of funding. This was based on the high administrative costs of the nonprofit group running the existing museum and the low attendance. I also had concerns about the museum relative to relocating from the downtown Griffith Park. Some questions I posed to the city agencies were, what will happen to the existing space which serves as a central location to the city? Isn't this a step in the wrong direction to rebuild downtown? With our new metro line, doesn't the existing space offer a more realistic location? The proposal for relocating the Children's Museum in Griffith Park still is not in the Griffith Park Master Plan. Why not? Why is this nonprofit museum setting a precedent in terms of using public land and public money? The Gene Autry Museum leases space from the city annually, but has never taken public money for facility construction. Please consider these factual statements and reconsider the allocation of funding to this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Candace Barrett.
Good afternoon. I'm Candace Barrett. I'm the director of the Children's Museum. I'm here to ask that the council approve long-term Prop K funding for the Children's Museum in both 1999 and the year 2001. And I would like to just address a couple of things that Ms. O'Brien noted. One was the attendance figure. I believe the attendance figure for the Children's Museum has ranged between 220 and 250,000 children and their grown-ups per year for the last 10 years, and our attendance has indeed increased over the last 2 years. And in terms of realistic location, I think the current site is not actually in Griffith Park, and many of the various things that are being considered are on public land. I would be available to answer any questions that the Los Feliz Improvement Association or any of you have about the current neg deck. And I think Neil Drucker is here, who can give you some more information about what's actually happening with the lease.
Okay, the public hearing is closed. Mr. Deaton, can you respond to some of the questions that were raised? And
what you have before you is the approval of these projects, including the Children's Museum, as bonding projects. The Children's Museum was originally, as a Prop K project, was approved in 1998-99 by the council, and again in 1999-2000. The EIR and the lease arrangements with Recreation and Parks has to be approved before the council can, in fact, under the provisions of Prop K, fund this project. Those things are making their way through another process in the Department of Recreation and Parks, and will eventually come to council. So you have two separate tracks. This is the beginnings of the implementation of the bonding program that has been under discussion since the initial beginnings of Prop K, and the Children's Museum, as I said, have been included by the council up to this point. If the only issue before you now is, well, twofold. One is to initiate the process on the funding, and two, what are those projects? Any environmental issues or any lease issues are actually issues that have to be resolved before this project can be approved finally, and that will be done in the next several months, if at all.
all right, Mr. Hernandez, I think this is your committee, so we'll call on you. You're the father of Prop K.
Mr. President, members of the council, you know, it's with great pride I stand here and talk about Proposition K, because more and more I'm beginning to see the fruits of that proposition become a reality of the city of Los Angeles. And as the author of Proposition K, I have to share with you another reality is that during the period of formation of that proposition and trying to get it passed by the voters, and it won by that overwhelming margin of 1%, the reality was the Children's Museum chairman and its board was supporting Prop K. Not only was it the only board that took an action in that direction, but it took a financial action in that direction. So they were mentioned in Proposition K when it was put before the voters as a potential project that could be funded. I share that because I was the author and I know what it said. Now, the location, what you need to understand is prior to me introducing Proposition K, I had discussions about the location. The specific location, no. But we had looked at maps of youth throughout the city, and a centralized location happened to be Griffith Park. I don't know why that was a coincidence, but the reality that when you look at the west side, you look at the north of the city, you look at the east part of the city, that became a central location, because at first I had concerns about moving the Children's Museum. Now, that is just one thing that's before you, but what it is it's instituting the mechanisms to allow for financing of regional type projects. There are other projects that are part of this financing that are before us today, and I'm asking us to support the bonding mechanism that has to be, the step that has to be taken in order for us to get there. Another thing that's before us is the reality of having a project manager overseeing some of the projects that are being done by the Department of Recreation and Parks, because many of those projects are not necessarily online, and I think someone's coming up in that regard. But what we're trying to do in Proposition K is we wanted to make sure the money is not wasted. We wanted to make sure that these projects came online and were completed in a process that's streamlined, and also called for support from a variety of sectors. And that's why we have the Proposition K Oversight Committee that's made up of the CLA's office, the CAO's office, and the engineer's office. So again, that's what's before us today. I move the Ad Hoc Committee on Children, Youth, and Their Families recommendations. There was a no vote in regards to the Children's Museum cast by Ms. Walters, but the committee overall supported the whole package that's before you at this time.
Ms. Goldberg?
Actually, I thought Ms. Walters called it special, so if she wanted to speak first, I'd be happy to let her speak first, then I'll follow her.
Thank you, Mr. President, and Ms. Goldberg. I think council members, in the formulation of the implementation regulations around Prop K, the distribution of the money, the regional VNOCs were a very important element here, and were put there for a reason, to listen to. The entire regional VNOC rejected this Children's Museum as a Prop K entity. You heard some testimony from a couple of people about the property that has been identified as being leased by the city. You've heard that part of the property does not belong to Department of Recreation and Parks, but belongs to DWP. But also, I found out yesterday at the Arts, Health, and Humanities Committee meeting that there's a part of the property listed in the description in the lease that is Immaculate Heart High School over on Western and Franklin, or Fountain, Franklin, which is a mile and a half or so away from the property that is under consideration. Also, I understand that this water tunnel is only 10 feet deep and is only buried 10 feet deep from the surface and will provide some problems with construction. The parking, as I understand it, they're not able to put the sufficient parking on that site. And someone said they would be dependent on parking across the street, across Riverside Drive, at the Friendship Auditorium. There's question whether that can be utilized, but even if it could be utilized, I don't know if any of you have crossed Riverside Drive to get to the other side on foot. It's a very dangerous place to cross. And here, as that street curves around, are you going to put the walkway in the curve? Are you going to put it after the curve? It's a very dangerous place to go. I'd also like CLA to examine the issue as to whether, because this is not a municipal project, that it has any impact on our interest rates on the bonds that we're going to get. And council members, remember, this is the most expensive project that is in Prop K, and we're not we're not giving it in increments. We're giving them the whole 8 million, whatever, all in one fell swoop. And I urge you to vote for CLA's, not CLA's reports, the Arts, Health, and Humanities Committee reports, which supports everything else there with the exception of the Children's Museum.
Goldberg?
Yes, I would like to move B if you didn't already do so, which I think is the same as pretty much as A, except without the Children's Museum project. And you know, I'm a devoted fan of the Children's Museum. I just think, however, that people did not vote for Prop K assuming that $9.5 million would go into a new Children's Museum. And I think that we are losing that connection between what people assumed, and I think that's why the VNOC voted as they did, although I wasn't there, but they, I think, felt connected to the notion that what we're trying to do is to make some difference in existing parks and to build new parks where there aren't any outdoor recreation areas. And to spend $9.5 million on a new children's museum, I don't think was ever intended. So I'm going to support B and urge others to do the same. And sit down now.
Mr. Hernandez?
You know, members of the council, and I rise directly to respond to Ms. Goldberg's question because there were certain regional projects we talked about. One was the LA Zoo as part of Prop K. Another one was the observatory as part of Prop K. And another one was the Children's Museum. I just want to make sure people understand that. It wasn't something that was not discussed during the formation of that proposition. And it wasn't something that wasn't mentioned during the process of that proposition. And so I clearly understood that we were going to have regional type projects, that we're going to have big tickets, and that we were going to try and figure out how to finance those projects over a 25-year assessment period. Again, this mechanism deals with that financing because the Children's Museum is ready to move now. But at the same time, that movement cannot happen unless they complete the process of a site location that requires an EIR and approval from the property entities. What the action we're taking today is allowing for those funding mechanisms to begin and to be put in place. I just need to continue to stand and try and explain to people what the intent was of Proposition K and how we put it together and what the debate was about before it went before the voters. And the reality is the voters did pass it. So it's not like we're doing something the voters, that was not part of the process. Many hearings were held in that direction, and I would be standing for the observatory, I'd be standing for the zoo, I'd be taking the same kinds of position, and I'll also be standing for the small parks, because that was also part of Prop K.
Mr. Burnson?
I move the previous question on the entire matter, instead of speaking as I was going to.
I will assume that the previous question has passed, and we have the matter before us. Now, what do we have, Mr.
I have a Hernandez motion to move the Children, Youth, and Family report.
All right, prepare the roll on that.
I originate, I vote.
Fuhr.
Mr. Hernandez?
Hernandez, Fuhr, motion.
Prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 2 noes.
That is approved. The next item.
Item 16, called special.
Yeah, we have forthwith on that. We have Dennis Zine and Leonard Shapiro.
What a combination.
That's a combination.
Oh, boy.
Well, he's after me. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, council members. Dennis Zine on behalf of the Los Angeles Police Protective League. Item 16 deals with the reestablishment of the rollout teams for the District Attorney's Office. And some may think that the Police Protective League would be against this measure. We are fully supportive of this measure. We believe and we welcome this oversight by the District Attorney's Office. We also welcome oversight by the Police Commission, also by the Inspector General's Office. There was a past practice where the district attorney had a rollout team for officer-involved shootings, and that simply verified the professionalism and the expertise of Los Angeles police officers in carrying out their duties and responsibilities. During the time of the rollout teams, there were never any improprieties noted, and there was never any problem of our members of the Los Angeles Police Department, members of the Protective League, working with the district attorney representatives. We need to establish public trust and confidence and maintain that within the Los Angeles Police Department. We at the Protective League and thousands of officers of the Los Angeles Police Department are shocked and dismayed by the admissions of prior officer Perez, which I believe brought this motion forward. The LA Police Protective League pledges to work with Chief Parks, the Police Commission, the Inspector General, this council, and any other entity to restore confidence and credibility in the Los Angeles Police Department. We are professional police officers and will not tolerate any form of corruption inside the department. We are not reluctant to establish proper and legal safeguards to maintain the public trust. We fully support the item number 16, and we call for the council's support for that establishment of the rollout team, again, to reestablish credibility for officer-involved shootings.
Pretty long-winded for a police officer. Leonard Shapiro.
Thank you, Council and Mr. President.
You used all your time, Leonard.
No, he didn't, but he was on my, I tell you, Mr. President and council members, the previous speaker really fooled me. He told me that he was going to object to this instead of coming out and taking all my steam. He's in favor of it. Well, I'm good, because this is the time that you really want to do something like this. We need that rollout team. The DA Garcetti claimed I was there at the supervisors when he told him he had no money. What does he mean he had no money? Got a budget of hundreds of millions of dollars, close to $500 to $600 million, and he says he has no money. A few $1 million that's involved in there. What is needed is this rollout team. You need somebody else in there. At least you'll put these rogue policemen on notice that somebody else is watching. And they won't be able to do the things that they did. They won't be able to browbeat and to beat and to mishandle people, because somebody's there is going to be listening. Of course, you understand that the backlash on this is the fact that the DA works with the police department constantly, and after a while, friendships are set up. So they're not exactly a person, an organization that has no involvement in any of these shootings that take place. But when they're better than nothing. And if there's any kind of trouble that the supervisors are having with the DA to say that this rollout team is not necessary, I think that behooves the city council to say, yes, it is necessary, and especially right now, when everybody's got to do what they can to restore the credibility of the police department, because God knows they need it. And we need this rollout team to help them do that job together with the Inspector General and together with all the other new inspections that are taking place.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Okay. All right, we have Ms. Misakowski, the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the testimony of the two speakers, and I can indicate to the members of the council that last night I spoke with District Attorney Gail Garcetti, and as many of you may have heard, this morning in front of the Board of Supervisors, the action is going to be taken to reinstate this, and that is in concert with the District Attorney as well as in concert with their management of their own budget. So I think the first item here, which was asking that the council ask that this be done, will have been successfully implemented by the time we end our session today. I would also like to suggest, though, that this should come to committee so that we can look at other issues as they might arise, either out of the Board of Inquiry that is currently underway or just in the process of how this will be set up, and making sure that everybody from both the police department side and the law enforcement agencies, the district attorney staff, are in concert, have clearly the police commission and inspector general set up their process and their rules for how this will occur, so that everyone can benefit, and that those safeguards that were in place and that should be reinstated will be back in place as a mechanism to ensure that we not again get into the situation we're facing currently. So I ask that we send this on to committee to ask for a report from the chief, from the commission, from the inspector general, but also to indicate that the prime motivation of this motion has been accomplished, and we just need to have report back as to how soon it can be implemented.
Thank you. Mrs. Chick?
Yes, I am pleased to hear what our colleague has just informed us of, and also that the motion will still go to Public Safety Committee. I have, albeit not detailed memory, but memory that the former Inspector General at one time had issued an in-depth or presented an in-depth use of force shooting investigation report to the Police Commission that was not accepted. It was a draft. But I think that this commission is most eager to take a look at a variety of ways that the commission can also change its approach and the expediency with which it receives use of force investigation reports from the department as well as the DA's rollout team. So I think there's a variety of improvements that can come of this, and I look forward to the work that the Public Safety Committee will do with the commission and the department.
Berg?
Yes, as it goes to committee, I would urge that we also look at the Inspector General's role in a rollout possibility in conjunction with the District Attorney's team, simply because all of those issues are eventually looked at by the IG's office, and rather than having two teams, maybe a member of the IG's office could be a part of the District Attorney's team, and that way you'd have both civilian oversight groups working jointly. You don't want to have 97 people on a scene. So I was going to suggest that before I saw your motion already, and that they're already doing this, but it seems to me that even if there's just one person from the IG's office on the District Attorney team, you end up with then having a person who's eventually going to have to look at all of this, have had a member of his or her staff had a first-hand view of it right away. Other than that, I support this completely, and am happy to hear that the supervisors are taking this matter up even before we've taken this action.
Mr. Fuhrer? Mr. Hernandez?
Mr. President, members of the council, just for the committee's edification, I wanted to reread a motion that was introduced September 27th, 1995 by myself, and was seconded by Councilmember Goldberg, Galanter, Fuhrer, Check, Burnson, and Savornich. That motion was dealing with the recent shooting of Antonio Gutierrez in Lincoln Heights. Coupled with the fear of Detective Mark Fuhrman's tape, has created a cloud of suspicion and distrust over the LAPD. Now more than ever, it is imperative that the residents of the city get a complete and unbiased investigation as to the events of July 29, 1995. It is essential to the healing in our communities and to any sense of closure that will allow us to move forward towards real reform in the LAPD. The intent of this motion is not to assume guilt or innocence by any party, but rather the need for complete disclosure and a fair and unbiased resolution on this matter. So the council moved, we urge the District Attorney of Los Angeles County to continue the investigation involved shooting of that person on July 29, 1995, and we further moved that the District Attorney be urged to reactivate its officer-involved shooting unit function in order to provide a continued on-site investigation of officer-involved shootings incidents. And again, that was in 1995. September 27th, so this council is on record as requesting that from the district attorney, and I would hope that at this time we can take into account that we needed that cloud of suspicion to be removed, and we need to make sure we reestablish that credibility.
Okay, we have item 16 before us. Prepare the roll. It's going to go to committee. All right, there's no objections. That will be the order. Next item.
Item number 17.
Okay, we have some people. Taylor Mayfield and Mary Darts.
Yeah, I will put one right on your nose.
Tell them I can contribute two for
I know, yeah, at least.
We don't have 12 items, do we?
Yes, good afternoon, council. My name again is Taylor Mayfield. I'm a resident of Baldwin Village. I am also a member of the Empowerment Congress for the 8th District. and I am a member of the Baldwin Village Community in Action, which is a community organization. I'm here to speak about the problem we're having in Baldwin Village concerning mobile vendors. I've taken the liberty to pass to you copies of a Our Times article that was written on Friday, August the 27th, which addresses the problem we're having concerning vendor trucks. Along with that, there's a letter to Councilman Mark Ridley Thomas, and that discusses the problem, again, that we're having. What's important about that is to let you know that this has been an ongoing problem and we've been trying to deal with for quite some time. As a matter of fact, back on August 7th, Mark Ridley Thomas had his neighborhood council elections, and Councilman Farrell was there as a guest. And if you remember, Councilman, I asked you at that point in time, what could we do? And you suggested what I'm doing right now. And thanks to Councilman Mark Ridley Thomas, I'm here. So thank you for the information. At any rate, we have this problem of vendors in our community. It has been an ongoing problem. We are basically under siege by vending trucks that engulf our community. It is a quality of life issue. And some of the reasons that are most important to us as residents are as follows, concerning the ice cream vendors. First of all, they are noise nuisance. Now, as you know, our current governor has taken quite a stand on education. And the reason why I'm linking this up is because the vendors sell junk food. Okay, we have anywhere from 13 to 15 vending trucks in our area at one time. They're selling ice cream and junk food, which is nutrition, or not nutrition, which is why some of the problems we're having in our community concerning education is the lack of nutrition. So you have that problem. We also have the problem of noise. In the article again, I mentioned the fact that the vending trucks create quite a noise. They have a jingle that comes through the community. When you have 15 trucks in 15-minute intervals giving you this jingle, is very difficult for our students to study. So all this links together. We also have the problem with illegal dumping. Many of the ice cream vendors dump their ice cream boxes and things of that nature in the residence garbage area, and so that takes up some of the space. There are many problems concerning the vendors, and I just mentioned a few. I'm hoping that, as many of the people before me mentioned, that you look at this situation, think of your community, and think of what if the vendors were in your community, what if they were addressing your children, what if they were coming through and selling articles like toy guns. And that's what you have to do, because, you know, being in a minority neighborhood, we're many times overlooked. Many times the problem starts where we are, but until it reaches other neighborhoods, it doesn't get addressed. So we're hoping that you can nip this in the bud today, start this movement to rid our area of vending trucks. Thank you very much.
Ms. Dart? For announcement.
Yeah, I hate to interrupt, but there are people coming in asking about Plum. The Plum Committee will meet 10 minutes after the council adjourns. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mary.
Go ahead. Oh, good afternoon. My name is Mary Jones. I live in the Crenshaw area in Baldwin Village. I'm president of Baldwin Village Community in Action. It's a neighborhood association in that area. And I'm here today to support the motion to prohibit the manufacture and sale of toy guns. I don't know if you all have seen these toy guns that are being sold throughout our community. Mr. Mayfield just mentioned all of the other quality of life issues that's plaguing our community. We literally feel like we're a community under siege, because from, say, 8 o'clock in the morning until 9 or 10 in the evening, these ice cream vendors, vegetable vendors, they sell everything from ice cream to toy guns to who knows what else, some illegal items also. But the toy guns is one of the main issues because it's a serious danger. Along with these guns they're selling, there's a little explosive pellet that they're selling that the children throw to the ground, and it makes a loud cracking sound that could sound like a weapon. And along with these toy guns that not only do they feel heavy like a real weapon, they look like real guns. And this is, our children are at risk. The children jump on the back of these ice cream trucks. The ice cream trucks speed down the street. Children have fell and have been injured. And I haven't heard the press mention any of that, but this is a very, very serious issue. We don't want another child killed. I've heard on the East Coast that a policeman killed a child by mistake. If a youngster is on the street at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and sometimes they are, with these toy weapons, with their little toy explosives that they throw to the ground, making a cracking sound like a real gun, a child could be killed. And I don't want to see another child dead. Thank you.
Hearing is closed, and we have, I think this is Mr. Ridley Thomas's motion, so we'll call on him first.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. I'm aware that we have a list of those who have been actively involved in the effort to bring the vending trucks under some semblance of order so that the communities in which they are involved have the opportunity to enjoy the level of quality of life that everyone wishes to experience. Ms. Galanter calls to my attention, it was in 1988 where she first initiated a motion that arose from the concerns expressed in the Baldwin Village community. Mr. Hernandez calls to my attention exploration in which he's engaged. I will tell you this. It was when we were invited to be principals for a day that the school that I attended, the principal there said, there is a specific problem with which we need help. She went to her closet and retrieved a shopping bag. It was filled with imitation firearms. Then she proceeded to say that these lookalikes were collected because we wish to have a safe campus, and when asked where they came from, the youngsters repeatedly told her they were from the ice cream trucks. This is not unique to this particular school, and I just simply want to say this is a menacing problem that we are obliged to address. Mr. President, members of the council, the motion before you, seconded by Ms. Miskowski, Mr. Pacheco, Mr. Fuhr, attempts to do the work that we set in motion some time ago. It was drafted by the city attorney's office. It has remained in committee for a considerable amount of time. It is urgent, in my view, that we address this in the interest of building a greater safety net around schools where the vending trucks often find themselves. And so I would just simply wish to ask that we move forward with the adoption of the motion before the chairperson of Public Safety, Ms. Miskowski, has committed herself to moving this through the process as expeditiously as possible. And with that, I would ask that we unanimously adopt this motion in an attempt to protect children from the dangers of imitation firearms.
Mr. Fuhr.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I remember when Mark first brought this issue to my attention, and it was sort of ironic that I found myself seated at the Medal of Valor luncheon just a couple weeks ago next to a police officer, and of course the conversation turned naturally to issues of courage and danger in the department. And I asked the officer what had been his most frightening moment on the force. Been there for 5 years. And he said the most frightening moment he'd ever experienced was not very long ago when he was called to the scene of an alley where it was alleged there was youth with a weapon by a neighbor who'd called. And the officer found himself in that alley. He drew his weapon when the child, the youth, a teenager, didn't seem to react to calls to drop his. And he was just about to fire, the officer about to fire his sidearm when the youth did comply and drop what he'd had in his hand, what he had in his hand was a toy gun. And he was just hanging around and hadn't heard clearly or something. That discussion will stay with me, and it resonated when Mark introduced his motion. The actual enforcement of existing rules against replicas of real firearms is something that we need to be examining more carefully, so we don't have situations that could have resulted in that alley with a member of our police force and a member of our community. So I appreciate Mark's bringing this motion forward. I'm not going to speak to the catering truck aspect of this today. I think there's a broader issue on the table, and that's the enforcement of rules against these imitation weapons. To put it bluntly, somebody is going to get killed unless our enforcement, killed without any justification whatsoever, unless our enforcement is beefed up. So thanks, Mark.
Ms. Galanter?
Well, I agree with all of that, but I actually wanted to talk about the other aspect, which is the catering trucks. And I'm very sorry to hear that this is still a problem in the Baldwin Village area, because it was a problem when I first started on the council, when Baldwin Village was not called Baldwin Village yet, and when the area was located in my district. The concern at that time was not the toy weapons, but many of the same quality of life issues. We had the noise problem. There was a suspicion that a number of the ice cream vendors may have been dealing illegal substances, because, as several of my constituents pointed out, why else would an ice cream truck be coming through the alley at 2 in the morning, ringing its bell and waking everybody up? And we did introduce early on, with the help of a number of residents of the community, a request for a whole series of enforcement actions. And the only, I mean, this is now a long time ago, but the ones I can remember were that the health department was going to be asked to go look at them. We were going to ask that they be checked for business licenses, whether the lights on the truck complied with the rules for, whether the trucks were in conformance with all the motor vehicle rules. And I find it's really disheartening to hear that it doesn't seem to have helped. So I would like to ask, in adopting this, that we also ask the various city forces that would have something to do with enforcing the ordinances once we pass them, to make sure that they are able to do that. I attended a meeting, as several of my colleagues did as well, last week, of a traffic summit, which happened to be on the west side, but they hold them all over the place. And it involved the police department, along with a number of other agencies, looking at how to enforce traffic laws and make traffic run smoothly where there are construction projects, where there are accidents, where there are all kinds of problems that come up that make difficulties for neighborhoods that wind up with the spillover traffic. And it would seem to me that this is an issue that should go to that same group as well. But for the meantime, I think we need to pass the what's before us and get on with it. But I do hope that, and I want to offer to help in any way I can, that all of you who are representing neighborhoods that are suffering that kind of problem will get the kind of enforcement of the rules. We sometimes feel like we've actually finished the job when we adopt them, but I think it's really just the beginning, and unfortunately, it appears that even beginning and even enforcing doesn't always do the job. So I think both of these are important aspects of the problem.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Mr. Holden.
Mr. President, members, I think that we should always do all we can do in order to take the guns and the lookalikes off the street. I would say that when I first got elected in 1987, I read the newspaper, and it was all over television, about a kid who was at home alone, and someone summons the police officer. And as the police officer was opening the door to go inside, because someone said the parents were not there, and the kid was home alone, he had a toy gun sticking from behind the door. Without giving any notification, the police officers fired and killed this 4 or 5-year-old kid, which traumatized that officer, I'm sure, for the rest of his life. He resigned, of course, from the police department at that time. I tried to respond to that, and in November of 1987, introduced a motion to generate an ordinance that says that we cannot manufacture or sell lookalikes, replicas, in the city of Los Angeles. Also, that was adopted, Mr. President, November 13th, 1987. Now,
You even got my vote, Nate.
yeah, okay. So what we also did was memorialize Congress and the state of California, the legislature, to do the same. Ms. Roberti, along with Mr. Tucker, introduced legislation to accomplish what we had suggested that they do. Now it is state law, to the best of my recollection, right, as we speak. We are preempted, that is, by state law, and that ordinance which we adopted was in effect up until that point. But state law says that you cannot manufacture, sell replicas or look-alike in the state of California. We gave an exemption to the motion picture industry, and I think that's the only, and that exemption was carried on in state law as well. So if there are some trucks still doing that, then we need to just go out and cite them. I took notice that every single store, department store, whatever, convenience store that was selling those replicas or look-alike, we did a raid on them, and they were cited. The police department went there, and they stopped selling them. So I must tell you, I'm really surprised that these little trucks, vending trucks, would be doing that. But if they are, what we should do is say, enforce the law which now exists. We should call for strict enforcement. If you want to amend that, Mr. Thomas, I will so offer that we have the laws in the book, state and local, and we should call for strict enforcement of the law which prevents the manufacture and the sale of replicas or look-alike toy guns. I have a bunch of them in my office that I bought and showed an example before the council. So I'd like to offer that as a friendly amendment, Mr.
Did you buy those for resale, Nate?
I said, pardon?
I said,
And sell, resell, and to resell. All right. Mr. Thomas, friendly amendment? Thank you.
Chair recognizes Mr. Hernandez.
Mr. President, members of council, my understanding this is going to Mr. Misikowski's committee for review. And I just want to take advantage to comment that I think it's going to the proper committee, but also the fact that she has extensive knowledge of the conditional use permit process. But in the city of Pasadena, they basically have an ordinance that we're getting a copy of that institutes that catering trucks who park on private property need a conditional use permit. I think that if catering trucks in their licensing process had to take out a permit, it would allow us then to impose conditions as to how they could operate within the boundaries of the city of Los Angeles. And in those conditions, when those conditions are violated, would give us the authority to remove that permit to operate. So I just wanted to kind of interject that concept, and as soon as we get a copy of the ordinance, send it to her committee so that it could be considered, because when we talk about catering truck sales, we're just not talking about toy guns. We're talking about basically how they operate, where they operate, and when they're operating. And there's places where it's appropriate in the city of LA that be taken into consideration. And then there's a lot of complaints when they're not appropriately operating. And so hopefully that will allow for us to have an additional to regulate them and to oversee them. It's not popular sometimes to deal with these kinds of issues because of the cost factors involved, but the reality is when there's violations that basically create problems, we have to look for solutions, and I think right now we're talking about potential problems that we're looking for solutions. And so hopefully that too can be looked at as part of this process.
Mrs. Walters?
Thank you, Mr. President. These vendor trucks have a long history of being objectionable and creating problems in the community, not the least of which is they're going through the communities late at night, and I have often suspected that they're selling something other than ice cream. Just last week, I was following one down a street in my district, and there were some young children that had gathered around the truck making purchases. The truck pulled on down the street. The smallest child, that looked like he was probably no more than 5 or 6 years old, ran behind the truck to try to sit on its bumper as it was going down the street. if the driver saw him, he didn't stop. I think that we do need to some way enforce the operation of these vendor trucks in the neighborhoods. One, for safety. Two, for healthfulness. The Department of Health visits restaurants and gives them letter grades. And they ought to be doing the same thing, to trying to have some kind of program where these people would have to meet some health standards. Now, to the issue of the guns on the vendor trucks. You know, it was just a few years ago where there was one of these swap meets that was selling pins that looked like needles and selling them to school children, to teenagers, where they could look like they were shooting up. They were visited, and there was a lot of publicity brought around the issue, and they stopped those sales. And I would hope that the publicity that would attend this issue would have the same effect, to stop the sales. We need to go back to the late 60s, early 70s, when the Vietnam War was on, and there was a real push for toys for children, no war toys. And there were slogans on the back of people's automobiles. There were slogans all around, and the issue generated a lot of publicity about what kind of toys we as adults purchase for our children. And this surely is an issue of that kind of importance. We really ought to refrain from buying war toys, toys of violence for our children to play with. It's nothing funny, and we need to work with the schools on that, work with the media on that, and stop this accessibility that makes these kids at a very early age think that guns are all right, that's the way to go, and as many as they can get, and plain shoot them up until they get to an age where they can have the real thing. So, Mr. Ridley Thomas, I commend you for the motion. I would hope that we can talk with our police department and health department about getting some type of enforcement on these vendor trucks, and with respect to health, and then, of course, with respect to any other items that they're selling other than the ice cream.
Ms. Sikowski?
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, want to commend Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas for bringing in the motion, and my colleagues who've all commented today on different parts of this. I think that the motion, which embodies 3 council files and ideas that were originated back in 1988 and 89, contain all of the items that we're talking about today, which involve the sale of these look-alike guns and the inappropriateness of that in certain areas, as well as throughout the entire city. The issue of catering trucks, which bring in a whole other set of conditions and concerns about whether and if and how our catering trucks are operating legally in the city, and then ultimately enforcement on both the catering truck side and enforcement on the ban on the sale and manufacture of look-alike guns. So I will, as the motion requests, bring this on the next regularly scheduled Public Safety Committee and bring forward the ordinances that appear to have been prepared by the city attorney in '94 dealing with the specific catering truck issue and sale of items that are inappropriate in and around schools, and have the city attorney update that if necessary and be able to present that back to the city council as soon as possible, as well as looking at all the other items that my colleagues have mentioned on the various issues involving catering trucks, whether it's traffic safety or what is going on in terms of the sales of them, or where they are located without appropriate permits. So we will expect and hope to wrap up all of those items as they've been presented today that are embodied in the original council files, and bring them forth for some expeditious action.
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Mr. President, I simply wish to thank all of the members of the council who have chosen to take this matter as seriously as they have, as well as to those who came to speak, both Ms. Jones, Mr. Mayfield. They have been leaders in trying to bring a higher quality of life to the community in which they live. I think we're prepared to move. There was a video that we brought. We'll hold it, Mr. President, in the interest of time, and show it at a time that might be more convenient and/or appropriate. It's very short, but it graphically depicts the nature of the problem as we attempt to get our message forward.
To the movies yesterday, Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Thank you. You're not in this one, Mr. Burnson. Fortunately, this is something that we can show in the council chambers. Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Okay, we have a motion as amended.
As amended.
Prepare the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
That is approved. Next item.
Special one, not on the agenda, is a Walters Padilla motion. Findings need to be made.
All right, the findings of...
Mr. President, members, this is a motion from Councilmember Walters. It seeks to have the council authorize the Department of General Services to partner with the Japanese American National Museum and the Museum of Contemporary Art to file an application for Proposition K funds for the creation and development of the Little Tokyo Art Park. Apparently, the General Services Department decided to pursue this partnership subsequent to the posting of today's council agenda. In order for the council to make a determination on a motion as provided in the government code and in the rules of the city council, there must be a finding that there is a need to take immediate action on this matter and that the need for action came to the attention of the council subsequent to the posting of today's council agenda.
Okay, prepare the roll on the findings, tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
That is approved. Now we have the matter before us. Any discussion? Mrs.
In the
Ward.
interest of time, Mr. President, I will refrain from any discussion other than to urge council members to vote in the affirmative.
Thank you. Ms. Goldberg?
Really just had a question about the second moving portion of this, because I'm not sure what it means. It says authorize the Department of General Services to apply for a Prop K grant, I understand that part, and enter into negotiations with the city for $1 million in Prop K grant funds. Does that mean if we vote on this, we're granting the funds?
Not any more than you're granting the funds with any others. They're developing the proposal.
Oh,
These are proposals. And General Services only yesterday determined that they would partner with the museums on this art park.
So the negotiations are between the museum and the General Services over what the proposal should be like?
Right, and then
Okay,
they'll
I
move
just didn't
forward,
understand the
and then they
word.
have to be awarded. So this is just
That's all I want to know.
preliminary.
The word negotiations made me confused.
Mr. Hernandez?
I was just rising to answer the same question. My understanding that wording was proper, and it didn't give a competitive advantage, but being that the Department of General Service doesn't have a board, we have to give that authorization.
Ms. Miskowski?
I hadn't finished.
Okay, prepare the roll on special one. Tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
That is approved. Next item.
Now it's time for public comment on non-agenda items.
Okay, we have Kareem Mohammed. And we have Leonard Shapiro on public comment.
Mr. President, I was interested in finding out what happened to agenda item number 18, which I wanted to say a few words on, but the sergeant was giving me a hard time.
It was continued.
Thank you. I'd like to congratulate you, Mr. President, on the big write-up you got in the LA Business Journal today. I didn't see it actually, but I heard it on the air, and from what I could gather, they think quite a bit of you, that you're the most powerful man in the city of Los Angeles, even more powerful than the mayor. Interesting. You ought to thank them anyhow.
No, not as powerful as you, though, Mr. Shapiro.
That's right. Thousands, hundreds of people who hear the TV reports on Channel 35 tell me that they're very angry about the way the president treats me. They tell me that. I don't know if it's true or not, Mr. President. You can use your own discretion. But they get very angry about it, and one of these days maybe they'll get together and write you some letters. What I'd like to tell the city council right now,
Tell me how well I treat you, Mr. Shapiro.
yeah, but I'd like to say something that the president said 2 weeks ago. I made the suggestion that you hold more district meetings in each individual council district. And the president said, in effect, he'll shoot the first man who stops anybody from having it. That if anybody makes a recommendation for him, to hold a meeting, he will cooperate to the utmost. In fact, Rick Orlov wrote it up in the Daily News that way. And I think it's great. When Cindy Misikowski spoke as the main speaker at the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association, I had the opportunity to ask her that question. When are you going to hold the next district meeting in this district, Ms. Misikowski? And she assured me that she would hold one within 2 or 3 months. Now, I think in 1998, since you hold 10 meetings, and since I contacted practically every one of the city council people to tell them to have it and push them as hard as I could that they had it. There's no question Mr. Ferraro cooperated 100% and told you that you had to have it. But the main point is these meetings are a necessity. If anybody wants to talk about the secession movements down in the harbor and out in the valley, and you want to stop them and show them that you really care, why not hold these meetings? They were attended by the average of 400 people. I attended one with 550 people there. The people are anxious to see what their city council people are doing, and they can't get down here. You see who's down here. All you got in the room is bureaucrats and lobbyists. You have no...
Mr. Shapiro, if you had been here earlier, you would have seen a whole lot of people here.
When there's individual items, they'll come down. They'll come down on the dump. They'll come down on what? On specific issues.
And we're going to come down on you pretty soon, so you better wipe it
I
up.
don't want to come down. My point is, Mr. President, I can't do it alone. I can't make these people hold district meetings. I think you should exercise the same power you, as the strongest man in L.A., exerted in 1998 when you had 10 meetings to exert a little of that power and make these council people toe the mark.
Yeah,
Mr. President.
Thank you. You didn't have to send me that deodorant thinking I'm the strongest person.
Mr. President, I just wanted to tell Mr. Shapiro that on October 6th, the Budget and Finance Committee will convene a meeting in Mr. Padilla's district, and will continue to do so in other districts around the city. Look forward to seeing you there.
Okay, the public comment is closed. We're going to clear off the desk, but we're going to go into executive session, so I would suggest all those not involved, please leave the council chamber.
President, would you announce that IGR will be meeting around 2:15?
The IGR will meet around 2:15. Next item.
Request for excuse from council attendance. Councilmember Ridley Thomas requests to be excused on Wednesday, September 29th, to arrive at 11 a.m. That meets policy.
Unanimous vote.
Councilmember Galanter requests to be excused on October 1st. This requires a motion.
All right, Mr. Field moves. Unanimous vote.
Councilmember Wax requests to be excused on October 20th for personal business. This meets policy.
Unanimous vote.
And Councilmember Burnson requests to be excused on Friday, October 1st for personal business. This meets policy.
Unanimous vote.
What could it be?
Next item.
The desk is clear, except for closed session items.
Are you involved with the executive session? Well, while you're leaning on the post.
Every time we're appropriating money. Okay, are we ready? Yes, we're back. Mr. Clerk, let's take them in order.
Okay. Item number 20A, there's a request to authorize city attorney to expend $345,000 in payment of settlement.
Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. Next item.
Item 20B.
Well, let me just, hold on a second. Let me just, in case anybody just tuned in, we've actually just had a lengthy discussion in closed session of the issues of these cases, and because in each case the recommendation involves the allocation of money, we are now going to vote on them. Okay, go ahead.
Item number 20B is a recommendation to authorize city attorney to expend $190,000 in settlement of case.
Open the roll, close the roll.
10 ayes,
Tabulate.
1 no.
Thank you. You're getting ahead of me there. Next item.
20B motion by Goldberg, Walters, direct the LAPD to report back to Public Safety Committee once all suggestions mentioned today in closed session have been addressed and completed, so it can be held in a public forum.
Okay, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That's approved. Next one.
20C, there's a request to authorize city attorney to expend $282,363.75 and any interest which may accrue after October 6th in settlement of case.
Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
9 ayes, 2 noes.
All right, that's approved. And one more.
And item 21, there's authorize city attorney and associated counsel to settle workers' compensation matter for the sum of $190,000 and execute a compromise and release agreement.
Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
9 ayes, 2 noes.
Also approved. All right.
Madam President, desk is clear.
I think that's it. All right, now, adjourning motions? Yes, I have one also. Do you need the, city attorneys, do we need those? Do you need the materials back? No. Okay. Everybody please rise for the adjourning motions. Ms. Goldberg. Yes, I have two. The first is to ask you to close council with me today in memory of Salud Aquino. Mr. Aquino passed away after a lengthy illness on Tuesday, September the 14th. He was always a stalwart, always a stalwart for her family. She was a teacher, and she will be greatly missed. Mrs. Aquino is survived by 2 sons, Bayani and Edward, 2 daughters, Marietta and Amelia, 10 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. Her son, Bayani, is an employee of the Department of Building and Safety and a 24-year city employee. The second one is for Edwin Martinez, a young custodial worker for the city who was brutally murdered this last weekend. Edwin was a hard and diligent worker, but more importantly, he was a friendly and likable person with a pleasant disposition and a ready smile. He was always had a welcome greeting for those with whom he came into contact. He began working here. He was quickly befriended by everybody on the 18th floor of City Hall. He had plans to attend LA City College, and his goal and ambition was to become a Los Angeles City firefighter. Edwin was 19 years old at the time of his death and is survived by his mother, Sonia Chacon, his father, Oscar Alberto Martinez, a sister, and a brother. Mr. Holden, are you? No, somebody else?
Mr. Burnson, yeah. Okay, Mr. President, sadly to announce that we're going to adjourn in memory of my niece, Jennifer A. Jackson Ward. She just passed away from a chronic disease that affects women, breast cancer, which permeated her entire body. She was a graduate of UCLA. She became a single parent and raised a daughter who finished UCLA and now will be finishing law school, and a young son who's an intern at JPL. So she's done tremendously well. She leaves her daughter Nicole, son Billy, Annie and Douglas Jackson are aunts, and a host of uncles and aunts.
All members.
All members.
All members on that one. Mr. Savornich, Mr. Ridley Thomas, sorry.
Madam President, members of the council, I ask that you join in adjourning in memory of Kyan Davis. Kyan is a son of Ron and Anita Davis. He was 16 years of age, born and raised in our city, survived by both of his parents, 2 sisters, and a host of family and friends who will miss him dearly.
Mr. Savornich.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to ask that we adjourn in memory of Norma Lee, who passed away on August 27th. She and her husband, Ben, were the co-owners of Busy Bee Market on 24th and Walker in San Pedro. She is also survived by her sons, Ryan and Darren. Also, that we adjourn in memory of Nick Rock Padu, who was born on November 13th, 1929 in San Pedro and was a lifetime resident. He was a Marine clerk with the Longshore Union for many, many years and is survived by his loving family. Also, that we adjourn in memory of John Carr, a very good friend, who passed away on Sunday at the age of 67. He was born on November 13th, 1931 in Crkvenica, Croatia, and came to San Pedro at the age of 6 and lived here ever since. He was part owner of Quality Seafood in Redondo Beach and is survived by a loving family. Finally, that we adjourn in memory of Yakov Jack Ursic, who was born in Selca Brač, Croatia, on August 9th, 1897, was 102 years old just last month, who came to San Pedro in 1922, was a commercial fisherman for 30 years, and following his retirement was active in managing his properties around the community. He is also survived by a loving family.
And finally, I'd like to ask on behalf of Council President John Ferraro that we adjourn in memory of Ana Maria Alva, who passed away recently. She was the mother of Carmen Alva, former secretary to former Councilman Bernardi. Mrs. Alva is also survived by 6 other children, Louis, Ignacio, Henry, Lisa, Tina, and Mary. And I think that does it. Call the roll. Thank you. We are adjourned. Have a nice